Chapter 5:22. The fog gradually dispersed, and the one-eyed Dharma idol knelt above the Yu clan's mansion. The arm that he had used to cast the Cambrian Xianming god sealing seal had completely disappeared from his body. His body was also covered with cracks, like a layer of ice that was about to break. The Yu clan's people's smiles froze on their faces as they looked at Xiao Yan standing proudly in the fog. In that exchange just now, the Yu clan's late-stage Yuanying ancestor was defeated, and the Dharma idol was on the verge of breaking. A late-stage Yuanying ancestor was defeated by a late-stage golden elixir ancestor. It wasn't only the members of the Yu clan, even the other spectators all gasped when they saw the situation clearly at this moment. In the backyard of the Yu clan's mansion, an old man was sitting cross-legged in a quiet room with his hands forming a seal. The huge ice-blue array above the mansion suddenly emitted thousands of blue lights, which entered the one-eyed giant's body that was about to collapse. With the replenishment of the blue lights, the one-eyed giant's wounds began to heal quickly, and even his broken arm was reformed. The one-eyed giant's eye emitted light again, and an ancient cold aura spread out. It was even more powerful than before. But this time, the one-eyed Dharma idol didn't dare to face Xiao Yan alone. Instead, it was in the array, and its body and the array were closely connected. The power of both sides increased together. Countless runes and runes rose around the array and the one-eyed giant. Powerful magic power rippled out, and cold air spread in all directions. The Yu clan's late-stage Yuanying ancestor had completely given up the idea of fighting Xiao Yan alone. Instead, he activated the protective array of the Yu clan's mansion in West Hill City. He wanted to use the array to deal with Xiao Yan. The array borrowed the power of the world, but it had all kinds of disadvantages. For example, it couldn't be moved, and the arrangement was complicated. However, the power of the array was definitely the strongest among the spells of the same level. No matter which great power it was, their own mountain gate was the most stable, and they had an absolute geographical advantage. If you took the initiative to attack the enemy's nest, unless your strength was much higher than the enemy's, you would most likely be badly injured in front of the enemy's nest. Right now, the Yu clan wanted to use the protective array of the mansion to fight against Xiao Yan. But this also made all the Yu clan's cultivators feel ashamed and angry. They were beaten up by a Jindan realm cultivator at their doorstep. It was useless even if they had a late Yuanying realm ancestor. In the end, they had to retreat back to their nest to take advantage of the geographical advantage. Whether they won or lost this battle, they had already lost their face. Looking at this scene, Xiao Yan raised his eyebrows and smiled, his gaze revealing high fighting spirit. Instead, his fighting spirit became even higher. Forget it. If I waste too much energy here, I won't have the energy to attack the Yu clan's ancestral land. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan slightly suppressed his already boiling blood, not choosing to face the formation in front of him head-on. The best dishes have to be left for last. With a wave of his hand, a scroll appeared in his hand, and an extremely terrifying aura spread out in an instant. This aura was sealed in the scroll, and not much was leaked. It was very weak, but this aura was extremely terrifying. In West Hill City, a few vast waves of divine sense came. Unexpectedly, the primordial soul powerhouses in the city were alarmed by this aura. Xiao Yan did not open the scroll. He only used his own magic to lift the scroll and let it fly towards the Yu clan mansion's array. In the next moment, all the onlookers widened their eyes. They saw that the unopened scroll lightly float above the Yu family's residence, emitting a cold and clear light. Wherever the clear light passed, the Yu family's protective array rapidly shattered. The one-eyed giant's Dharma idol, which was one with the array, was also heavily injured. It had already recovered, but now a large area of it shattered like a broken pottery figurine. The late-stage nascent soul patriarch's mind was connected, so he was immediately injured as if he was struck by lightning. This is the array that the patriarch personally set up. It's an array that was set up by a primordial soul powerhouse. The ancestor's face was pale. The scroll hasn't even been opened, but the patriarch's array has been broken. How is this possible? What is that scroll? Was it given to Xiao Yan by the master of the celestial sect? At the same time, Xiao Yan opened his hands to both sides, and two flames spread out. The left side was shining with golden light, and each flame was like a glaring needle. The right side was dark and gloomy. The blue-purple demonic fire seemed to come from purgatory, and it was going to destroy the world. Among the few types of fire that Xiao Yan had mastered, the celestial flaming lotus, formed by the fusion of the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire, was the pinnacle of the fusion. However, because the nether evil blaze was too violent, it was much more difficult to fuse than the Nan Mingli fire and the solar true fire. Xiao Yan could now almost instantaneously cast the Nan Mingli fire and the solar true fire. However, the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire needed some preparation time, and the success rate was not 100%. But at this moment the scroll had bought him enough time. Xiao Yan leisurely took out the nether evil blaze and the solar true fire, and began to fuse the second celestial flaming lotus. Soon, a purple-gold lotus appeared in front of Xiao Yan. A deep, oppressive, violent, and restless energy wave spread out, giving people a sense of oppression that was much greater than the first pure gold lotus. Xiao Yan let out a long breath and shouted in a low voice, "Break!" The purple-gold lotus smashed toward the Yu clan's mansion. Boom! Amidst the deafening explosion, as far as the eye could see, there was a sea of purplish-gold flames. Endless waves of fire soared into the sky, turning into a thick pillar of fire that shot straight up into the sky. The array, which had already been scattered under the pressure of the scroll, was completely shattered. The one-eyed giant's Dharma image was also burned to ashes by the fierce fire. The vast Yu clan's mansion was instantly engulfed by the sea of fire. Countless houses and pavilions disappeared on the spot, directly vaporized. The Yu clan's people hid in the deepest part of the mansion, looking at the scene in front of them with despair. Could it be that all the people from the celestial sect of wonders are monsters like this? How can they be so powerful? What kind of people are we fighting against? Why didn't the clan leader come to Shilin City to take charge? The clan leader is an expert in the primordial soul realm. It would be easy for him to suppress this monster, but why didn't the clan leader come? It's over, it's all over. The mansion is going to be burned to the ground. Our Yu clan has lost all face. We're going to become the laughing stock of Shilin City. This was the capital of the Great Qin dynasty. Normally, if such a big thing happened, the Great Qin dynasty would definitely intervene. But this time, the Great Qin dynasty seemed to have become deaf and blind. They allowed Xiao Yan and the Yu clan to turn the sky and earth upside down in Shilin City. Other than preventing both sides from affecting others, they did not intervene at all. The Yu clan was in despair. The late-stage Yuanian clan leader's Dharma image was destroyed. His expression was ashen. He clenched his teeth and said, "Where there's life, there's hope. One day we'll make Xianmen Tianzong pay the price. Let's go." He activated a secret technique and opened up a spatial passage from the mansion in Shilin City to the Yu clan's ancestral land. He guided the group of Yu clan disciples to retreat to the ancestral land. "Xiao Yan, this debt, my Yu clan will definitely settle with you." The magnificent mansion turned into a sea of fire and was burned to the ground. It was completely erased from this world. Xiao Yan stood in the air above the sea of fire. Hearing the Yu clan's clamor before they left, he laughed coldly. "Settle? This is just the beginning. I've said it before. Today I, Xianmen Tianzong, will raise your Yu clan to the ground." He flew out of Shilin City and headed west. The other cultivators in the city looked at each other. West, isn't that the direction of the Yu clan's ancestral land? The northern militant cultivators were also discussing. Xianmen Tianzong is actually so powerful. A late-stage golden elixir disciple was able to raise the Yu clan's mansion that has a late-stage Yuanian clan leader overseeing it? Xianmen Tianzong, is he going to start a massacre today? But the Yu clan's ancestral land has Lord Xian Ming Yu Xintao personally overseeing it. No matter how strong this Xiao Yan is, how can he be a match? Xiao Yan is already like this. Then how strong is his master, the master of the Celestial Gate? Even if Yu Xintao is here, how can he resist? At this time, a large man wearing the luxurious clothes of a foreign race suddenly appeared. His entire body's vitality was as majestic as the sun. It was the northern militant Prince Yu Xian. Let's go to the Yu clan's ancestral land together, Prince Yu Xian said and took the lead. The northern militant cultivators obeyed and followed behind him. At this time, a stream of light also flew out from the imperial palace, also heading west. Their target was also the Yu clan's ancestral land. And to the east of the great Qin dynasty was the Shi clan's ancestral land. A black-clothed middle-aged man with a steely expression was sitting in the forbidden area of the Shi clan's ancestral land. He sighed inwardly, then his figure disappeared. He hurried towards the Yu clan's ancestral land, but his path was blocked by someone in the air. Zen Master Dade put his palms together. Silently he said, "Shi clan head, please stay." This black-clothed middle-aged man with a steely expression was the Shi clan head, Shi Wu. He stared coldly at Zen Master Dade. So the great master has thrown his lot in with Xianmen Tianzong. Zen Master Dade smiled. Being taken in by the master of the Mystic Gate, this old monk has the face to stay on Yujing Mountain for a long time. I have to put in some effort. Shi Wu said, the great master is an outsider. If you get involved, aren't you afraid of being tainted by karma and affecting your cultivation? Zen Master Dade chanted a Buddhist name in a low voice. My Buddha is merciful and saves all living beings. This old monk's journey is precisely to help others resolve a karma. Even if I affect my own cultivation because of this, it's nothing. Karma is also a kind of cultivation. Shi Wu was silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh. The various things in this world can no longer be explained in a few words. There's no benefit in saying more. Right now, I want to go to the Yu clan's ancestral land. If the great master wants to stop me, I'm afraid you won't be able to. Shi Wu was already at the second tier of the primordial spirit realm, the void realm. This time, he had specially brought the Shi clan's treasured magic treasure with him. Even if his opponent was from the great Thunderclap Monastery, Shi Wu was confident he could defeat Zen Master Dade, who was only at the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. Zen Master Dade smiled. Everything is within the calculations of the Master of the Mystic Gate. Clan head Shi, stay here and discuss scriptures with this old monk. An intense wave of magic power suddenly erupted from his body, causing Shi Wu to be slightly shocked. What kind of magic treasure does he have on him? It's not from the Buddhist sections. Could it be the magic treasure of the Master of the Mystic Gate? Sensing this wave of power, Shi Wu's expression darkened. He knew that he would not be able to reach the Yu clan's ancestral land in a short period of time. And at this moment, a young man dressed in purple martial arts attire with a black robe on the outside arrived at the Yu clan's ancestral land. It was Xiao Yan. Chapter 523. The Yu family's ancestral land was actually a great deep blue lake. On the surface of the deep blue lake, there were many rays of light that wove into a giant array above the lake. Above the array floated a mansion. This mansion, compared to the Yu family's mansion in Western Hill City, was even grander, and even larger in scale. All of the buildings were pitch black and slightly transparent. They flashed with a dark luster, as if they were constructed from black ice. If one looked carefully, one could even see traces of cold air gushing out from the buildings. The great lake below the mansion was a deep blue. There were no ripples, and the vast lake seemed to have solidified, as if it was solid. a gust of wind blew past, but there wasn't even the slightest ripple on the surface of the lake. The entire lake was like a giant blue ice crystal. If one looked carefully, they would discover that this was a dead lake. There were no signs of life in it. The black mansion in midair, together with the great blue lake below, formed a single entity that exuded an ancient aura. It was like a door, and on the other side of the door was an ancient world, an era where all things were frozen. Xiao Yin calmly stood by the lake, looking at the giant mansion floating in the sky. In the void behind him, a giant figure was faintly discernible. This was the magical doppelganger that Lin Feng had given him. Just now in West Hill City, before the battle began, Xiao Yin had already released his doppelganger. Lin Feng's magical doppelganger automatically floated in the void, blocking the Yu family patriarch, Lord Xianming Yuxintao, who had heard the news. Yuxintao had no choice but to return to the Yu family's ancestral land. Lin Feng didn't pursue him. The magical doppelganger hid between heaven and earth, silently watching as Xiao Yin leveled the Yu family's mansion in West Hill City. His disciples were becoming stronger and stronger. There were many things that Lin Feng didn't need to do himself. He could just leisurely watch his disciples slaughter in all directions. In some special circumstances, he only needed to look after them. The people in the Yu family's ancestral land had long known that the Yu family's mansion in West Hill City had been attacked. They wanted to reinforce, but were forbidden by Yuxintao. Although Yuxintao didn't say it explicitly, many people knew that someone was stopping them from going to West Hill City. Therefore, right now the entire Yu family's ancestral ground was in a state of turmoil. The younger generation of the Yu family was in a mess. The older Yu family cultivators all frowned. When they learned that not only had Xiao Yan razed the Yu family's mansion in western Tomb City, but he had also come to the Yu family's ancestral land, they were even more enraged. Could it be that the master of the celestial sect of wonders really thinks that a single disciple of his can charge into my Yu clan's ancestral land? Isn't he a little too arrogant? Kill him immediately. Otherwise, our Yu clan will never be able to stand on the divine land again. An old man said in a deep voice, "The key is not this Xiao Yan, but the master of the celestial sect behind him. He is an expert that even the patriarch is powerless against. He is the main culprit behind our Yu family's current predicament." "Then what do you suggest we do?" That person answered, "Capture this Xiao Yan, but don't kill him. Use him as a hostage to force the master of the celestial sect to be cautious and not dare to cause trouble. What we need now is time. The dual-pupiled person has officially entered the Taishu Temple and is extremely valued by the experts in the temple. Taishu Temple will not ignore us. As long as the people from Taishu Temple come, we will have the chance to settle things with Xianmen Tianzong. No matter how arrogant Xianmen Tianzong is, it will be difficult for him to defeat the power of the number one sacred land of the human race." The others nodded. "That's right. The primitive demon cult, Elysium, reincarnation sect, and even the Great Lane Temple, which one of them is not a powerful force that shocked an era? But in the end they will still be destroyed and withered. Only Taishu Temple will always be the number one sacred land of the divine land. It will never be destroyed, it will never fall." Outside the ancestral land, Xiao Yan's expression was calm. He felt the surging mana in the Yu family's ancestral land and smiled. "Ignorant junior, you really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Do you think that you alone can trespass into my Yu family's ancestral land?" An old voice echoed between heaven and earth. Xiao Yan smiled. With his current strength, he could barely flatten the Yu family in West Hill City. To flatten the Yu family's ancestral land, he really couldn't do it alone. But today he came prepared. He immediately walked towards the Yu family's ancestral land without hesitation. "Yu clan, my junior brother Shi Tianhao was harmed by his brother from the same clan, Shi Tianyi, and his exalted Dao foundation was seized. After that, Tianhao's parents took him out of Western Tomb City, and it was you who chased after them for thousands of miles in a futile attempt to eliminate them. Xiao Yan's body flew into the air. He stepped on the void step by step, walking forward at a speed that was neither fast nor slow. Tianhao was lucky. He escaped with his life and was accepted by my master as a disciple. He finally grew up, but you people still refused to let him go. You people tried to harm him several times. Tianhao's parents were lost in the void battlefield. The family of 3 was separated. Not long ago, they finally escaped the void battlefield and returned to the boundless universe. They could reunite with their family, but you people still wanted to capture them and kill them, finally forcing them back into the void battlefield. Xiao Yan said coldly, "Do you think that with the Taishu Temple supporting you, you can do whatever you want? You are wrong. Today, I am telling you that if you have done evil, the heavens will punish you. If the heavens don't punish you, we, Xianmen Tianzong, will." Behind Xiao Yan, there was a roar. 4 huge flame wings spread out, covering the sky like a boundless sea of fire. 4 flame wings, 2 on each side, spread out symmetrically. There were 2 flame wings on the upper shoulder. The left was the milky white pure yang fire, and the right was the blue and purple nether evil flame. There were 2 flame wings on the lower ribs. The left was the pure gold pure yang fire, and the right was the golden nan mingli fire with red and blue light. Compared to the previous 6 wings with 3 kinds of pure yang fire, the number of flame wings was reduced. But each wing was bigger. The 4 kinds of pure yang fire emitted a strong power, enough to make any cultivator below the primordial soul realm tremble. Another voice sounded in the Yu family's ancestral land. It was not the old man from before. It was the Yu family leader, Lord Xianming, Yu Xintao. "Your name is Xiao Yan, right? You are indeed outstanding. I am afraid that even Shi Tianhao may not be as strong as you. But no matter how outstanding a genius is, he can only become a real genius when he grows up. If he dies early, he is nothing but a piece of dirt." As his voice came out, the world within a radius of thousands of miles instantly became silent, as if it had fallen into eternal ice. The lake below the Yu family's ancestral land lit up. Countless complex symbols and patterns gathered, forming a magic array. The area was so large that it covered the entire lake. Under the illumination of the magic array, the Yu family's ancestral land looked like an ice river immortal palace. The world suddenly darkened. It was not because of the dark clouds covering the sun, but because of the extremely cold power. After freezing sound, even the light started to freeze. The living plants were frozen, and the lifeless rocks were frozen. Things with physical bodies were frozen. Sound, light, and even time and space without physical bodies were also frozen. Wherever the cold air spread, the void behind Xiao Yan shook. A giant figure that was more than 200 feet tall gradually appeared. The giant's clothes fluttered in the wind. He wore a wide robe with wide sleeves. His appearance was exactly the same as Lin Feng's. His facial features were also the same as Lin Feng's, but whether it was his clothes or his skin, they were all composed of dazzling golden flames. A pattern that looked like a sun appeared on his forehead, as if it was burning fiercely. The giant stepped on the void like the sun in the sky, extremely dazzling. It was Lin Feng's great son Yen, Emperor Dharmakaya. A water droplet that looked like ice crystals appeared in the sky. At first glance, it looked extremely small, almost invisible to the naked eye. But upon closer inspection, it seemed that this water droplet covered the entire sky. It was so large that it was impossible to estimate. It was as if the world was frozen in this water droplet. Lord Xianming Yu Xintao's voice came from the water droplet. "Master of the Celestial Sect of Wonders, although your magical power is amazing, you still have to see where you are. You stopped me from going to West Hill City. It's not good for me to destroy your Dharmakaya. But now we are in my Yu family's ancestral land. Here, you are just a Dharmakaya. You can't use it at all. Yu Xintao's words were not wrong. The Yu family's ancestral land was the foundation of the Yu family for countless years. It was far from comparable to the Yu family mansion in West Hill City. In this place, Yu Xintao's strength would be greatly improved. Even if the opponent was stronger than him, he would still be able to fight. Just like how swordsman Flowing Light guarded the Yunxing Peak and Lord Tianfeng guarded the Divine Wind Mountain. Lord Tianfeng, who was at the first tier of the primordial soul realm, guarded the Divine Wind Mountain. With the Nine Heavens astral wind formation at its peak, the indestructible demon soul at the second tier, even the Golden Crow Great Sage of the primordial true spirit realm could not do anything to him. This was the advantage of being in the right place. A large force had been operating for many years. The defensive power of its ancestral land was extremely shocking. If Lin Feng himself came, or if Yujing Mountain came crashing down, Yu Xintao would still feel uncertain. But if it was just Lin Feng's Dharmakaya of the Grand Sun Emperor, he had full confidence that he could defend against its attack. Originally, with his cultivation at the first tier of the primordial soul realm, it would be very difficult for him to control the Xianming treasure strategy, a Dharmakaya of the incarnation level. He could only use the power of a Dharmakaya of the spirit nurturing level. But in the Yu family's ancestral land, he had the opportunity to use the Xianming treasure strategy to reach its original peak power in a short period of time. Yu Xintao did not know that his clansmen had intercepted and surrounded Shi Tianhao's parent. After learning of the situation, he had already responded immediately and contacted others. As long as he persevered for a period of time, Yu Xintao believed that things would definitely turn for the better. The facial features of the Yan Emperor of the Great Sun looked exactly the same as Yu Xintao himself. His huge body that was 2,000 feet tall stood in the air, calmly facing off against Yu Xintao. He said indifferently, "I always keep my word. If I say that I will destroy your Yu family today, I will definitely do it." Hearing this, Xiao Yan, who was below the Dharmakaya of the Grand Sun Emperor, immediately smiled. He raised his right hand and showed the scroll that Lin Feng had previously given him. In the Yu family's ancestral land, the cultivators of the Yu family who had escaped from West Hill City all revealed expressions of fear when they saw this scene. In West Hill City, Xiao Yan had used this scroll to break the protective array of the Yu family mansion. What was even more shocking was that this time, Xiao Yan did not just take out the scroll but actually opened it. Chapter 524. The scroll in Xiao Yan's hand was completely opened, and a terrifying power spread out. Wherever the aura reached, the cold qi of Yu Xintao and the Yu clan's protective array started to dissipate. That was a terrifying aura that could destroy the heavens, kill creation, and destroy everything. Lin Feng's heaven-punishing sword qi. Once the heaven-punishing sword was unleashed, all things would be destroyed. A gray sword qi that seemed ordinary but was actually like the end of creation rushed out from the scroll. Wherever the sword qi passed, the space turned into nothingness and ceased to exist. The sharp sword qi directly cut through the protective array of the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, as if it was cutting through paper. In the depths of the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, there was an ancient building. That was the Yu clan's ancestral temple. At this moment, a dazzling blue light burst out, bitterly supporting the protective array and blocking the terrifying heaven-punishing sword qi. In the ancestral grounds, the Yu clan cultivators were enraged. Regardless of their cultivation level, they incited their magic power to support the array. The lake below had completely turned into a huge ice crystal, like a glacier. Vast amounts of spiritual power were all supporting the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Above the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, light flashed, and an ancient aura spread out. Countless talisman characters appeared. One after another, light figures stood in the void above the ancestral grounds. They were the spiritual will of the ancestors of the Yu clan, and they joined together to support the Xianming array to resist the heaven-punishing sword qi. But the domineering sword Qi continued to push forward, breaking the boundless blue light as it approached the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Everywhere the sword Qi passed, the desolate and ancient buildings in the Yu clan's ancestral grounds that were like black ice sculptures shattered into pieces, turning into ruins. Yu Xintao wanted to help, but Lin Feng's great Sun Emperor Dharma body had already rushed forward, and the violent heat almost instantly evaporated the cold Qi. The Xianming array was suppressed by the heaven-punishing sword Qi, and the power Yu Xintao borrowed from the array decreased rapidly. His heart sank, and he could only use the Xianming treasure strategy to deal with the great Sun Emperor Dharma body. Although the ancestral grounds array still had power to support him, in order to stop the great Sun Emperor, Yu Xintao already had to manifest his Yuan spirit incarnation. He used all his strength and could not spare any energy to care about others. The 4 true fire wings on Xiao Yan's back flapped together, and he flew towards the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Those who chased after my junior brother, and those who killed my junior brother's parents, step forward. Show some responsibility. In the Yu family's ancestral land, a nascent soul stage ancestor growled. The dual-pupiled person has already joined the Void Temple and directly became a core disciple of the Void Temple. This means that the Void Temple has already acknowledged his existence and acknowledged what happened back then. Your celestial sect of wonders is so domineering. Do you really think that no one can do anything to you? The dual-pupiled user is like a god descending from the heavens. He will definitely become a legend. No one can stop him. This is the will of the heavens. Shi Tianhao of the Xian Gate Sky sect is also a part of the will of the heavens. The descent of the Void Temple, the rise of the dual-pupiled person, it will be the day your Xian Gate Sky sect submits. But, Xiao Yan said coldly, my junior brother was born a supreme being, and that Shi Tianyi is just a thief. You guys are the same as him, thieves and robbers. If you ask me, you should offer his great god eyes to my junior brother. But, Xiao Yan smiled, but no matter how you looked at it, there was a sense of violence in it. My junior brother may not be interested in his dog eyes. In the ancestral land, the group of Yu family nascent soul stage old ancestors all roared in anger. Capture him, capture this Xiao Yan, only then can we make the Xian Gate's master restrain himself and retreat. The Xianming formation can't hold on any longer. We must capture this Xiao Yan, capture him. The Yu clan has a total of 4 late nascent soul realm old ancestors. One died in battle at Kunlun Mountain, the other had his heaven and earth law destroyed by Xiao Yan in West Hill City, causing his strength to drop greatly. At this time, the remaining 2 late nascent soul realm old ancestors both rushed out. The 2 of them flew out of the heaven and earth avatar together, attacking Xiao Yan. The other Yuanying elders surrounded Xiao Yan. The late Yuanying elder, whose dharma was destroyed by Xiao Yan, didn't participate in the attack, but he looked at Xiao Yan with eyes full of hatred. He formed a seal with his palms and shouted, "Show yourself, treasure!" In the ancestral grounds of the Yu clan, a bow suddenly flew out. It was completely black and emitted a majestic power. A thought came out from it, "You brat who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, die." It was a spirit-nurturing grade treasure, the Xianming Bao. The Yu clan had a foundation of close to 10,000 years and produced many experts. Although they were in decline, they were still rich. Other than the Xianming treasure tome of the incarnation grade, they also had the spirit-nurturing grade Xianming Bao. The Xianming Bao opened up on its own in the sky. A huge amount of Xianming true water formed 6 black arrows. They were cold and gloomy and pointed at Xiao Yan. The Yu clan turned out in full force. Other than the clan master Yu Xintao, who was being suppressed by the great Sun Yan Emperor, all the experts of the clan surrounded Xiao Yan. 3 late Yuanying elders led the team and took out their treasures. There were also other Yuanying experts helping them. They wanted to capture Xiao Yan, who was in the late golden elixir. They didn't want to kill Xiao Yan. They wanted to capture him alive. Only then would they have the bargaining chips to negotiate with Lin Feng and buy time for the others to come to the rescue. And their chance is only a short instant. Otherwise, if they let Lin Feng's great son Emperor Avatar break away from Yuxintao and come over to protect Xiao Yan, then they will no longer have a chance. Therefore, they went all out with this attack. Xiao Yan was fearless. He knocked on his forehead with his left hand and said, "Show yourself, treasure." Red and yellow light flashed and a black armor appeared in front of everyone. As the golden light flashed, there were flames leaping. A thick dragons might spread out and turned into auspicious clouds, shocking the surroundings. It was Lin Feng's Dragon God Heavenly Armor. Be it the Dragon God Heavenly Armor or the Xianming Bao, they weren't in the hands of a primordial soul cultivator, and couldn't unleash their full power. Even so, they were still very powerful. Back when the Dragon God Heavenly Armor wasn't a true treasure, its power was already comparable to the real thing. Now that it was refined by Lin Feng into a true treasure, even though its primordial spirit was just formed, it didn't fear the Xianming Bao. Xiao Yan was covered in the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. He roared into the sky like a dragon. Be it him or the Dragon God Heavenly Armor, their power was much stronger than when they were on the cloud traversing peak. The Xianming Bao shot 6 black ice arrows over. The Dragon God Heavenly Armor had red and yellow dragon shadows in front of it, blocking the attack of the ice arrows. The 6 ice arrows were all deflected and some landed on the ground. In an instant, the ground within a radius of 1,000 miles turned into black ice. The power of the extreme cold was terrifying. With the protection of the Dragon God Heavenly Armor, Xiao Yan's eyes flashed with fire. He stretched out his hands and the Sun Real Fire and Nan Mingli Fire appeared at the same time. In the void between the Sun Real Fire and Nan Mingli Fire, there was a milky white flame surging. It was the pure Yang Real Fire. The 3 great real fires fused together, and the destructive power started to surge. The space around Xiao Yan's body began to distort and break. The violent aura caused the group of Yu family cultivators to be endlessly terrified. Countless talismans and curses were shot into the flames by Xiao Yan. After a long time, the violent flames suddenly calmed down, and only a golden and milky white lotus remained. The red and blue stamens on the lotus swayed continuously. Xiao Yan pushed his hands forward and the 3 flames fused. The firmament fire lotus with unprecedented power smashed toward the Yu clan. The heaven and earth were instantly lit up, but it was silent. It was as if a long time had passed before a deafening explosion could be heard. A huge hole had also been blasted into the icy lake below. The cultivators of the Yu clan were too late to dodge, but they were powerless to escape the bombardment of the sea of fire. The Dharma idols of the 2 late nascent soul stage patriarchs were all blown up, and even their bodies and souls were turned into ashes. It's fine if they didn't go forward to surround and attack Xiao Yan, but all the people who went near were all engulfed by the raging flames. The terrifying thing about the 3 fire lotus was that it was ferocious. But what scared Yuxintao and the Yu clan cultivators even more was that the horrifying heaven-punishing sword qi finally broke through the Xianming protection array of the Yu clan's ancestral land and struck the ancestral temple of the Yu clan. The shadows of the ancestors were destroyed, and the huge amount of Xianming true water was destroyed. The ancient and majestic ancestral temple was split in half. A few figures appeared in the distant sky. The one in front was Prince Anliang of the Qin dynasty, Shi Zhongyu. He looked at the ruins of the Yu clan's ancestral land with a solemn expression and didn't speak for a long time. Behind him were Gambling Dao Master Zhuge Guang, Star Do Dao Master, and several Yuanying experts of the Qin dynasty. Everyone's brows were tightly knitted as they looked at the scene before them. Their emotions fluctuated. The Yu clan is practically crippled. Although the primordial soul clan master, Xianming Dao Master Yuxintao, was still resisting, it couldn't change the fact that the Yu clan was no longer able to rise again. The ancestral land was destroyed, and the Yuanying experts of the clan were either dead or injured. The high-level combat power was almost completely wiped out. The backbone of a huge cultivation force was completely broken. Lin Feng didn't even show up. He just let one of his late-stage golden elixir disciples bring his Dharmakaya with him, a magic weapon, and a scroll that sealed his sword chi, and almost razed the Yu clan to the ground. There was no smile on Star Do Dao Master's face at this moment. He said in a deep voice, "Previously at the opening ceremony of the Xianmen Tianzong outside Shazhou City, the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, and later in the ancient cloudy forest world, I have never seen such power from the master of Xianmen. Although the Xianming formation of the Yu clan's ancestral land can't be moved like the Nine Heavens astral wind formation of the Wind God sect, it is not much inferior with the help of the geographical advantage. The master of Xianmen can break it with one sword today. Why didn't he do so a year ago in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain?" Gambling Dao Master Zhugeguang said slowly, "In a year, even if you cultivate in a cave that accelerates time 100 or 1,000 times, there can't be such a big difference. The only possibility is that the master of Xianmen we saw a year ago was just a doppelganger of him. His real body has never appeared. Maybe he is in seclusion, or maybe he is traveling, or maybe he is tied up by something. But that's not important. What's important is," King Anliang Shizongyu said, "what's important is that his real body has finally appeared since the Tianjia Peak broke the 6 meridians heavenly sword formation of Shu Mountain. Taishu Temple is going to have a headache." Shizongyue turned his head to look at the other side of the sky. "But Xianmen Tianzong shouldn't be happy too early. If it is so easy to eradicate the aristocratic forces, my Qin dynasty would have done it long ago. Pull one hair, move the whole body." In the sky over there, the void was turbulent and white clouds emerged from it. "Taishu Temple is finally here." Chapter 525. The group of northern militant cultivators led by northern militant Prince Yuxian were also watching the battle in the Yu family's ancestral land. Apart from this Xiaoyan, if the other disciples of the master of the celestial sect also have such fierce strength, then it would be truly terrifying. A young man said, "After they form their nascent souls, they will be completely invincible under the primordial spirit stage." Someone snorted, "Weren't they already invincible under the Yuanying stage when they were in the early golden elixir period?" Prince Yuxian didn't say anything and looked straight at the power of Xiao Yan's celestial fire lotus after the fusion of the 3 true fires. For a long time, whether it was the Yu family, the great Qin dynasty, or their northern militant imperial court, the human cultivators of the divine land all had a consensus. That was that Xianmen Tianzong was extremely powerful, the master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng's cultivation was unfathomable, and his disciples Xiao Yan, Shi Tianhao, and the others were all monstrous geniuses. Any one of them was a proud son of heaven. But after all, because of their shallow foundation, Xianmen Tianzong was actually very embarrassed. The formation of their overall strength was a state of being thick at both ends and thin in the middle. After the Tianji Peak sword trials, the other forces still thought so. The master of the celestial sect, Lin Feng, was a powerful figure that could be compared to Yan Nanlai, Xian Longxing, and the others in the cultivation world. His disciples were also invincible in the same realm, and they could kill Yuanying cultivators with their golden elixir period cultivation. But looking at the entire Xian Gate heavenly sect, apart from Lin Feng himself, the only primordial spirit stage cultivator who is still a guest of the great Thunder Temple's Zen Master Dade, there are no other primordial spirit stage powerhouses. Even the number of nascent soul stage powerhouses can be counted on one hand. Not to mention compared to holy lands like the Taishu Temple and the Shu Mountain Sword Sect, even the Northern Militant Imperial Court, the Heavenly Sword Sect, and the Tianqi Sect had more than one primordial spirit cultivator. It could be said that if Lin Feng himself was not included, Xianmen Tianzong's strength was not the top. This is also why everyone publicly acknowledged Lin Feng's position as a giant, but to the Xian Gate Sky sect, it is still only seen as a new power, and is unable to be mentioned in the same breath as the Void Temple and Mount Shu Sword sect. In time, when Xiao Yan and the others grow, Xianmen Tianzong Holy Land, Xianmen would be able to completely establish themselves as. However, as the old saying goes, only a living genius is a genius. If one doesn't transform their potential into true strength, then no matter how great their potential is, it's just a castle in the air. Tian of Martial Qi. From Su militant sect from Tianzong, so Xuanzong from sect of Chen militant was a Tian. Chen's clan Tian's rank was a Tian's prince's long from Chen's king. So the successor of Xianmen Tianzong had already grown to such a terrifying level. Everyone knew that when Xiao Yan and the others matured, with the potential they had displayed, Xianmen Tianzong's strength would grow explosively, and they would truly soar into the sky. But no one had thought that this day would come so early. The northern militant cultivators looked towards the clone of the great Sun Yan Emperor fighting with Yu Xintao. Thinking that Lin Feng himself had not even appeared, everyone sighed in their hearts. A force, a large sect, a cultivator family, if there was no primordial spirit ox holding the fort, a disciple of Lin Feng could directly flatten them. Even with Yu Xintao holding the fort, the Xianming treasure book and the Xianming Bao, the Yu clan was in imminent danger. Xianmen Tianzong was really about to become a major force. In the sky above the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, Yu Xintao, who had seen his ancestral hall split in two by the heaven-punishing sword Qi, roared angrily, "Lin Feng!" The Xianming Great Formation was completely broken, and he felt that the magic power that the formation had added to his body was finally about to completely dissipate. Yu Xintao manifested his primordial spirit incarnation in the form of a huge black ice soul, activating the Xianming treasure book and activating his own power to the extreme. A black-robed elder with blue hair and a beard appeared in the Xianming treasure book. It was the primordial spirit of the Xianming treasure book, and it also did its best to activate the Xianming true water. The Xianming true water that was as deep as the sea flowed in the sky, pouncing towards Lin Feng's great Sun Yan Emperor clone. The black layer of ice spread to the great Sun Yan Emperor clone. The huge giant formed from the blazing sun true fire was also frozen by this power of extreme cold, turning into a huge ice sculpture 200 or 300 zhang tall. Within the black layer of ice, the great Sun Yan Emperor was vivid and lifelike. Yu Xintao's attack succeeded, and he wanted to escape. Although he was angry at the destruction of his family, he was not muddle-headed. This was just one of Lin Feng's mystique clones, and even if he destroyed the great Sun Yan Emperor, it would be meaningless. However, it was not so easy for him to leave. Within the layer of ice, the great Sun Yan Emperor suddenly revealed a smile. The corner of his mouth twitched, and instantly, the layer of ice shattered. In the next moment, the layer of ice completely shattered, and the great Sun Yan Emperor rushed out from within. His body exploded with a strong light, and a bright light gathered in his palm, turning into a sun that rose slowly, shining brightly. In the next moment, this bright sun suddenly disappeared, as if a heavenly dog had swallowed the sun. However, the power aura was even more terrifying. Great Sun Divine Fist, Eclipse Change. The endless power of the Sun True Fire instantly burned and exploded, and a punch landed on the black ice soul formed by Yu Xintao's primordial spirit. Ice and fire clashed intensely in the world. It was as if a black ice rain fell from the sky, and Yu Xintao's primordial spirit clone was shattered inch by inch. No! The black-robed old man with a head full of blue hair let out a scream. Under the violent attack of the great Sun Yan Emperor, he was shattered and no longer existed. The primordial spirit treasure, Xianming treasure strategy, was directly destroyed by a punch. It was a pity that it was destroyed by Lin Feng before it could unleash its full power in the hands of Yu Xintao, who was at the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. Yu Xintao's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. If not for the clan treasure, Xianming treasure strategy, blocking the attack for him, he would have been killed by the great Sun Yen Emperor with a punch. At this moment, the void in the distant sky trembled, and white clouds surged out from within. The clouds in the sky rolled, and the essence qi in the sky condensed. The layers of void turned into clothes, condensing into the appearance of a middle-aged man. There was a white cloud embroidered on his clothes. This middle-aged man looked ordinary, and only his eyes were eye-catching. They were filled with rich emotions, as if they contained all the emotions of the world and all living beings. The middle-aged man was far away, but he stretched out his hand and caught Yu Xintao's primordial spirit incarnation. He then retracted his hand and instantly crossed through space, escaping from the great Sun Yen Emperor's attack range with Yu Xintao. It was a simple action, and it looked extremely relaxed and casual. It was as if he was just reaching out to grab something. However, when this action landed in the eyes of Shi Zongyue, Dao Lord Xingdou, Prince Beirong Yuxian, and the others, it made their hearts tremble. This middle-aged man's action was too relaxed. It was so relaxed that it did not give Lin Feng's great Sun Yen Emperor Dharma body any chance to react. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I have already done what I have to do. It was such a relaxed and casual action, but it revealed an extremely powerful mystique power, confidence, and pride. Lin Feng's great Sun Yen Emperor Dharma body stood between heaven and earth, looking calmly at the middle-aged man who had suddenly appeared. Xianlin Taoist, it's been a long time. The person who had come was a member of Taishu Temple's Grand Supreme Elders Guild. He was a third-tier primordial spirit realm expert and a path integration realm expert, Xianlin Taoist. After saving Yu Xintao, Xianlin Taoist lowered his head and looked at the Yu family's ancestral grounds, which had almost turned into ruins. His seemingly emotionless yet emotionless eyes flickered. Mystic Sect Master, you have gone overboard this time. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. A year ago, in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, Yu Xintao escaped with his life. On account of how difficult it was for him to cultivate, I did not seek him out for revenge. I was already being lenient. Now the Yu family actually dared to kill the family of my disciple. Do you think that I can be bullied? You only have yourself to blame, yet you're blaming me, Dao Venerable Xianlin. It's really unreasonable. Xianlin Taoist frowned slightly. Yu Xintao has already explained to me about this matter. That is the Shi family's internal affairs. He was merely lending a helping hand to the Yu family. The Shi family's internal affairs should be handled by them themselves. Lin Feng glanced at Xianlin Taoist expressionlessly. Then, he saw another two Taishu Temple cultivators slowly walk out from the void behind Xianlin Taoist. One of them was a lady. She had a pretty face and a peaceful expression. She was already a second-tier primordial soul realm cultivator, a void return realm cultivator. The other young man was a familiar face. He had a handsome face and was dressed in a clean white robe. The aura around him was light and gentle, without a hint of sharpness. It was as if he was a cool breeze or a spiritual spring. It was the former Taishu Temple's Empyrean walker, Pang Jie, who had suffered a setback outside Sand Continent City. At this moment, the aura around him was in harmony with heaven and earth. He was one with heaven and man. He had clearly attained the primordial soul realm. After Yan Mingyue, Pang Jie had also successfully attained the primordial soul realm. He and the lady followed behind Xianlin Taoist. Silently, they looked at Lin Feng's great Sun Yen Emperor's Dharmakaya. Lin Feng's gaze swept across the two of them before landing on Xianlin Taoist again. The Shi family's internal affairs? Back then, my disciple, Shi Tianhao, had a feud with that dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi. Surely, Xianlin Taoist doesn't know about it? Hearing Lin Feng's words, Xianlin Taoist fell silent for a moment before nodding calmly. I know what happened. Lin Feng's tone was calm. Since you know, then you should know that Shi Tianyi, the Shi family, and the Yu family owe my disciple justice. My disciple will personally seek this justice from that Shi Tianyi. If it is only between the two of them, I won't interfere. But if someone tries to interfere, I definitely won't sit idly by. Xianlin Taoist's gaze was calm. Everything that happened in the past is already in the past. My disciple, Shi Tianhao, has already been reborn. What happened in the past might not be his fate. It's a trial given to him by the heavens. Regardless of whether it is Shi Tianhao or Shi Tianyi, they are both outstanding talents of the younger generation in our human cultivation world. Their futures are limitless. If they continue to be entangled with each other, it will undoubtedly be a huge loss to our human cultivation world. Lin Feng's expression was still calm, but his gaze gradually turned cold. Justice is fate. In the past, someone conspired to seize my disciple's supreme martial artist spiritual platform. Today, he must pay the corresponding price. Xianlin Taoist's gaze also gradually turned cold. His brows knitted tighter and tighter, but he did not speak. Behind him, Pang Jie said indifferently, originally, there was only one supreme martial artist. Now there are two. To our human cultivation world, this is actually a good thing. We should be happy. Chapter 526. Since Shi Tianhao has been reborn, this is the best result. Slowly, Pang Jie said, from the point of view of the divine land, Shi Tianyi and his mother did a good deed in the past, which is equivalent to further developing Shi Tianyi in addition to Shi Tianhao, turning the original innate supreme being into two, increasing the reserve of talents in our human cultivation world. Looking at this matter again after 1,000 years, our human cultivation world will benefit endlessly. Lin Feng did not look at Pang Jie, but looked straight at Xianlin Taoist. Is this the attitude of Taishu Temple? Silently, Xianlin Taoist asked, what if not? Lin Feng let out a light laugh. According to what you guys mean, I should have dug out his dual pupils and given it to my disciple. Wouldn't this one dual pupil person become two? But unfortunately, this seat doesn't like that pair of eyes of his. Back then, what he took from this seat's disciple, he should obediently return it to this seat. A supreme pill cauldron is placed on the supreme spirit platform, forming a purple core gives birth to a vision, and in the future, when forming the nascent soul, there will be a change. This seat knows what this change is, and your Taishu Temple also knows. Both Xianlin Taoist and Pang Jie behind him slightly frowned. Hearing this, the others revealed a puzzled expression, including Northern Militant Yuxian Prince, Gambling Dao Venerable, and other primordial spirit powerhouses. Only the expression of the great Qin Anliang King, Shi Zongyue, changed slightly, as if remembering something, and his gaze became even more solemn. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent, but his gaze was cold. This seat's disciple, Shi Tianhao, was still in his infancy when he was plotted against by Shi Tianyi, and was born with a supreme spirit platform. Shi Tianyi, a god descended from the heavens, destined to be a genius? Everything was built on the persecution of this seat's disciple. Tianhao's life was in danger, his parents took him to escape, and they were even chased by the Yu clan. Tianhao became my disciple to learn martial arts. After the Yu clan found out about his identity, they tried to murder him several times. His parents went through untold hardships to return from the void battlefield. Just as they were about to reunite, they were ambushed and killed. Up until this moment, Shi Zongyue and the others finally understood why Lin Feng had flipped out once more, taken the initiative to attack them, and forcefully razed the Yu clan's nest to the ground. There was no denying this sort of matter. Although soul-searching was the work of the demonic path, and was despised by the righteous path, if they really did search their souls when necessary, the Yu and Shi families could only obediently admit to it. Facing Lin Feng's icy gaze, no one doubted whether he could do such a thing. The female Taishu temple cultivator behind Xianlin Taoist pondered for a moment and said, "Intercepting and capturing Shi Tianhao's parents is indeed wrong. Those who did it should be punished." At the time of the incident, Shi Tianyi was only a child. His mother was the mastermind. As far as I know, this person has already been executed. In recent years, Shi Tianyi has often been concerned about his younger clan brother. I think he would be very happy to compensate Shi Tianhao in other ways. The female Taishu temple cultivator said, "Whether it is Shi Tianyi or Shi Tianhao, they will inevitably become the proud sons of heaven of our human cultivation world. Losing either one is an immeasurable loss." Lin Feng indifferently glanced at her. "As far as I know, Shi Tianyi's past words and actions have never been the slightest bit remorseful. When the incident happened, he was even more clear about the cause and effect. He was even the one who discovered the secret of my disciple's natural-born supremacy. After reporting it to his mother, he set up the evil plan to seize it. If you say that he has the heart to repent, then you can return what he stole from my disciple, Tianhao. What, you only admit to stealing and robbing, but you are not willing to return the stolen goods." The female Taishu temple cultivator was stunned. Pang Jie silently said, "Could it be that you want to destroy Shi Tianyi?" Lin Feng's expression was still indifferent, but his gaze became colder. "Back then, he was able to destroy my disciple, so he should have expected this day to come. My disciple, Shi Tianhao, was able to rise again after suffering a disaster, so why can't he?" Lin Feng smiled coldly. "Tianhao almost died back then. As for him, with the quality of his body now, there is no danger to his life if he returns what he stole." Pang Jie frowned. How could this be the same? Shi Tianyi has already formed his nascent soul. When these words came out, even Shi Zongyue and Bairong Yuxian were moved. Especially Shi Zongyue. He had seen Shi Tianyi not long ago and knew that although Shi Tianyi had been cultivating in the heavenly grotto with accelerated time, he was actually not even 17 years old. Not even 17 years old, he had formed Yuanying, shocking the ancients and dazzling the contemporaries, a god descending from the heavens, destined to be a proud son of heaven. Now that he had entered the Taishu temple, his future was truly boundless, destined to become the main character of this era. Lin Feng's expression did not change as he said indifferently, "You also said that he is already a Yuanying cultivator, so how strong would his endurance be? My disciple, Tianhao, was only a baby back then. How much pain would he have to endure if his Tao foundation was stolen?" Lin Feng looked around, his gaze sweeping over everyone. Slowly, he said, "Shi Tianhao entered my sect, so I will uphold justice for him. Someone owes him, so he must return it. If he doesn't return it, then I will beat him until he returns it." Lin Feng pointed at the Yu clan's ancestral grounds that had already turned into ruins. Some things cannot be discussed. Xianlin Taoist waved his sleeves and stared at Lin Feng, saying, "Sir, this is not justice, but tyranny. You will seek revenge for the smallest grievance, causing a bloody calamity at every turn, and your methods are ruthless and cruel. It is already close to the demonic path." He stood in the void, his majestic aura gradually spreading out, as if he had become the ruler of heaven and earth. He was not one with heaven and earth, nor was he independent from heaven and earth. Instead, he wanted to become the controller of heaven and earth. Under the pressure of his aura, even Lin Feng's great son Yen Emperor Dharma body became somewhat unstable. Lin Feng smiled faintly. The 2,000 feet tall pure gold blazing flame avatar collapsed with a loud bang, turning into a sea of solar true fire. The sea of fire suddenly separated to two sides, opening up a path. At the end of the path, the void split open, and misty purple gas gushed out. A young man in a purple robe slowly walked out of it. It was Lin Feng himself. Beside Lin Feng there were two people. One of them was a middle-aged man. His whole person was like a gloomy thundercloud that never rained. In his dull appearance, there was an incomparably violent power hidden. Everyone recognized that this person was the current sect master of the Purple Heaven Taoism, Tao Master Thundercloud. The Purple Heaven Taoism had always been on good terms with Xianmen Tianzong. It was not a big deal for Tao Master Thundercloud to go with Lin Feng. What attracted people more was the long-bearded elder. His sword essence soared into the sky, like a road to heaven, overcoming all difficulties, cutting through thorns and thorns, all the way up to the 9th heaven. Sword immortal? Pang Jie and the female cultivator of the Taishu Temple looked at each other and frowned slightly. The person who came with Lin Feng and Tao Master Thundercloud was the sword immortal of the Heavenly Sword sect. Although there was no direct evidence, those who really had access to high-level secrets all knew that the Heavenly Sword sect had the support of the Taishu Temple. That was why the Heavenly Sword sect had the ability to sit firmly in the second position in the 9 Heavens Sword League and hinder the Mount Shu Sword sect. Sword Immortal actually went with Lin Feng when there was a conflict between Lin Feng and the Taishu Temple. There were too many possibilities, but no matter which possibility it was not a good thing for Xianlin Taoist and the others. Lin Feng himself walked slowly and looked at Xianlin Taoist. Diabolism? Xianlin Taoist, you are wrong. If you want to talk about the diabolism, the people around you are the ones who have really entered the diabolism. As he spoke, he raised his hand, and a ball of light and shadow flew out and floated in the air. In the light and shadow was a young man dressed in white with a white auspicious cloud embroidered on his lapel. However, everyone could see that at this moment, he no longer had a physical body. His current appearance was a soul that appeared in front of everyone after being refined by a secret method. As soon as he saw this person, Pang Jie's pupils suddenly shrank slightly. This young man was Pang Jie's junior brother, Chun Gang, a disciple of the Taishu Temple who had once gone to the Kunlun mountain range to find trouble with Lin Feng. At that time, Chun Gang had voluntarily been planted with a curse by Pang Jie. When necessary, Pang Jie could use a secret method to take over Chun Gang's body and refine it into a doppelganger to kill strong enemies that Chun Gang could not deal with. However, Pang Jie's secret method was blocked by Lin Feng, and Chun Gang's soul was also saved by Lin Feng and refined into a netherworld puppet. Generally speaking, if the secret method failed, the body and soul of the sacrificial target would be destroyed. However, Pang Jie did not expect that Lin Feng actually had a way to save Chun Gang. At that time, Lin Feng had used the heavenly barrier to interrupt Pang Jie's secret method. This was Lin Feng's original magical technique, which had never been used in the Divine Land. When the female cultivator of the Taishu Temple saw Chun Gang's appearance, she immediately became angry. Yellow Springs True Water, Netherworld Puppet? You actually refined a disciple of the Taishu Temple into a netherworld puppet? You really are an evil demon. Lin Feng said indifferently, I refined him into a netherworld puppet to save his life. Other than that, there was no other way. Because at that time, his body was being taken over by someone using a secret method to erase his soul and take over his body. I refined his soul into a netherworld puppet to ensure that his soul would not be destroyed. Hearing the words a secret method to take over a body, the Xianlin Taoist and the female cultivator of the Taishu Temple frowned slightly. The corner of Lin Feng's mouth curled into a faint smile. Who do you think is the person who wants to take over his body? The Xianlin Taoist took a deep breath and stared straight at Lin Feng, not saying a word. Let us see who exactly is the evil demon. Lin Feng clapped his hands and directly removed the netherworld puppet technique on Chun Gang's body. However, his magic power was attached to Chun Gang's soul, directly drawing out the memories in the depths of Chun Gang's soul, turning them into images that were displayed in front of everyone. Lin Feng cast the spell in front of everyone, openly and without any falsehood. After removing the netherworld puppet technique, there was no possibility of controlling Chungang. Everyone present was a primordial spirit cultivator, and they could all see that Lin Feng did not do anything. He did not need to fake anything, and it was enough for him to present everything as it was. The images flashed by quickly. There was the memory of Pang Jie casting a spell to carve a curse on Chungang's forehead, as well as the memory of Chungang activating the ritual of taking over his body at the last moment of his life to receive Pang Jie to take over his body. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Even though Chungang was willing, but Pang Jie actually sacrificed himself to take over his own junior brother's body. This kind of action is completely different from the Void Temple, the dignified number 1 holy land of the righteous path. Especially through the display of Chungang's memories, it was clear that Pang Jie had not only cast a curse on his body. For a moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Pang Jie, Xianlin Taoist, and the others in front of him. Indescribable shock, disbelief, disdain, and mockery. All sorts of emotions appeared in everyone's eyes. It was as if a sharp blade was carving out cracks after cracks on the eternal reputation of the Taishu Temple in the great Tianyuan world. Lin Feng stood with his hands behind his back and smiled faintly. Now answer me. Who is the cruel and vicious one? Who is the evil demon here? Chapter 527. Although Lin Feng's tone was indifferent, his words were as sharp as knives, slicing the faces of Xianlin Taoist and the others into bloody pieces. Casting a secret technique on a fellow disciple, carving runes and curses on him so that he could possess and refine him into his avatar at any time was something that could only be seen in the sects of the diabolism. Even if Chungang and the others were doing it willingly, such an act had cast a shadow over the glorious image of Taishu Temple. All along, Taishu Temple had been the number 1 sacred place in the cultivation world of the Divine Land. At the same time, it was also the leader of the righteous path. During the war between the righteous path and the diabolism, Taishu Temple had led the masses and wiped out the sects of the diabolism. It was then that the righteous path was flourishing while the diabolism was weak. However, who would have thought that there would be a disciple of Taishu Temple who would resort to such cruel means? Moreover, Pang Jie was not an ordinary disciple. He had once been the leader of the disciples of Taishu Temple who had entered the human realm and was known as the Taoist world wayfarer of Taishu Temple. Such a person was fully deserving of being one of the leading figures of the new generation of Taishu Temple. With such a scandal on Pang Jie, he was not the only one who would be slapped in the face. Even the Taishu Temple would be shamed because of it. The prestige that had been accumulated over countless years would be dealt a blow. Pang Jie stood calmly in the void, his face expressionless. He allowed the others to stare at him like knives. Just a moment ago, he was still a high-spirited heavenly ruler of the new generation of Taishu Temple. Now, he was about to fall into a situation where his reputation was almost ruined. There was no hysteria, no denial, no pestering, no anger. Pang Jie stood there silently. He looked at Lin Feng with a strange gaze. During the Battle of the Sand Continent, Pang Jie did not go himself, but challenged Lin Feng with his avatar. In the end, he was suppressed by Lin Feng and had to beg for mercy from Yan Mingyue to escape. As a Taoist world wayfarer, he had lost all face. Compared with the divine sense and status that Lin Feng had shown later, he was actually not that ashamed. Heaven Wind Tao Master, an expert at the primordial soul stage, was killed by Lin Feng, and the Golden Crow Great Sage, one of the 10 sages of the Demon Clan, was captured. Recently, even the 4 second-tier Essence Soul Realm Sword Masters of the Mount Shu Sword Sect, who were sword masters at the Void Return Realm, had suffered a crushing defeat. Even one of the major figures in the vast land of the Divine Continent, the Mount Shu Sword Sect Master Xian Longxing's Sword Qi Dharma body, had been destroyed by Lin Feng. However, During the battle in the Sand Continent, Pang Jie actually had his own ideas. In order to break through the bottleneck and reach the primordial soul realm, he had given up his reputation. After leaving the Sand Continent, Pang Jie had been cultivating on White Cloud Mountain. Finally, he had successfully broken through to the primordial soul realm recently and successfully cultivated a primordial soul incarnation. Once his primordial spirit was formed, he would be free and have a bright future. From this moment on, Pang Jie was no longer a rising star or a genius with potential. His potential had been successfully transformed into strength. From now on, he was the true pride of the heavens and had officially stepped onto the stage of the great heaven primordial world. If he continued on this path, he was destined to leave his name in the history book. Looking back, the fame he had gained yesterday was nothing more than smoke. Pang Jie was like the rising sun in the east. He had finally reached the peak and was like the sun in the middle of the sky. But at this moment, he met Lin Feng again. Then he was shocked to find that even though he had achieved the primordial spirit, he could not be compared to Lin Feng at this moment. The difference between them was even greater than when they were outside the Sand Continent. At that time, he was the pride of the heavens, the leader of the Taishu Temple disciples who had entered the world, the Taoist world wayfarer, and the top leader of the younger generation. On the other hand, Lin Feng was not well known. He had just made a name for himself and his background was a mystery. Most people did not even know of his existence. Those who knew were guessing where he had come from. Now, Pang Jie had achieved the primordial spirit realm and officially stepped into the core circle of the Taishu Temple. At the same time, he had also become an important figure in the human cultivation world of the Divine Land. His enduring humiliation and meticulous planning had finally paid off. He had truly advanced a step further. But now, Lin Feng had impressively become a super big shot of the Divine Land that was on the same level as his senior, the abbot of the Taishu Temple, Yan Nanlai. Even with Pang Jie's strong Taoist heart, he was slightly at a loss at this moment. Once upon a time, Lin Feng was like a floating cloud in his eyes, not worth mentioning. Later on, Lin Feng became his imaginary enemy, an opponent of equal weight. But looking back at it now, everything was like a joke. The female cultivator of the Taishu Temple beside him was silent, while the Xianlin Taoist frowned. There was a genuine look of disappointment in his eyes. He turned to look at Pang Jie and said, "You have done wrong in this matter." Silently, Pang Jie said, "Since every disciple of the Taishu Temple has enjoyed the glory of the sect, it is only natural for them to contribute to the sect. Whether it is right or wrong should be judged by the future generations." He raised his head to look at the Xianlin Taoist. Both of their gazes were the same. They were filled with countless sincere feelings, yet they seemed to be indifferent and emotionless at the same time. "Your disciple has also been nurtured by the temple. If junior brother Chun and the others can make sacrifices, so can your disciple." Pang Jie let out a long sigh and said, "Master, do it. Your disciple will gladly endure any hardship. I only hope that I can clear the name of the sect." The Xianlin Taoist looked at Pang Jie. This was his direct disciple, and he had been nurturing him for a long time. But now, he had to suppress him with his own hands. He raised his hand and thousands of rays of white light were released from the void. A huge stone tablet descended from the sky. On the front of the stone tablet there were 2 words, punishment, and on the back there were 9 lines of words. These were the 9 commandments of the Taishu Temple. The 5th commandment, "Do not be jealous of your fellow disciples, do not kill each other," was flashing with light. This tablet was a treasure used by the Taishu Temple to punish its own disciples. It had not been used for a long time. Now that it had descended from the sky, it immediately suppressed Pang Jie. Those who were suppressed by the Taishu demon suppressing steel would not die, but they would forever be suppressed by the magical power of the treasure. As long as the treasure was not broken, they would never be able to escape. It was equivalent to being imprisoned for life. Pang Jie was in the white light below the Taishu demon suppressing steel. His figure gradually disappeared. At the last moment, he stared at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked calm. He did not look at Pang Jie. Instead, he looked at the Taishu demon suppressing steel in the sky with interest. Then, his gaze fell on the Xianlin Taoist and he nodded slightly. Without the slightest intention of shirking responsibility, he did not go back on his words. Without hesitation, he directly suppressed his own direct disciple, the core disciple of the Taishu temple, Pang Jie. It seemed that he was forced into a corner by Lin Feng. However, it showed a bit of an open and honest attitude, showing the calmness of the number one holy land of the Taishu temple. There will always be dead branches in a big tree. What Pang Jie did would certainly affect the reputation of the Taishu temple. However, the clean and efficient way of handling it had reduced the negative impact to the minimum. In this way, it seemed that Lin Feng had some intention of targeting the Taishu temple. He had ulterior motives. The gambling Lord Zhuge Guang, who was watching from the side, used his mana to transmit his voice to the Prince of Anliang, Shi Zongyu. The Xianmen Taoist master could have communicated with the Taishu temple in private. Now that he has exposed the matter in public, it is equivalent to humiliating the Taishu temple. With such obvious hostility, although the Taishu temple has dealt with Pang Jie, they will not feel happy. Is Xianmen Tianzong going to completely become enemies with the Taishu temple? The Xianmen Taoist master's move is not wise. The Star Dipper Taoist master also frowned slightly. Is it worth it to fight to the death with the Taishu temple for a disciple? Both sides are not giving in. Isn't the Taishu temple also protecting Shi Tianyi? However, this time it is indeed the Taishu temple that is in the wrong. The Prince of Anliang, Shi Zongyu, said slowly, however, the radicals of the Taishu temple have always been overbearing. If it were not for the suppression of the conservatives, they would have already begun to expand. He glanced at the sword immortal beside Lin Feng and said lightly, however, the Xianmen Taoist master did not completely become enemies with the Taishu temple. It is just. The eyes of the Xianlin Taoist also fell on Lin Feng. His eyes were full of pressure. The Taishang elder of the Taishu temple was the backbone of the radicals of the Taishu temple. He had always been committed to promoting the Taishu temple to lead the masses, to rule the heavens, and to become the supreme ruler of humanity. Although the conservatives of the Taishu temple were now in power, the Xianlin Taoist firmly believed that all obstacles would eventually disappear. The sudden rise of new forces like Xianmen Tianzong and Lin Feng would naturally arouse the vigilance of the radicals of the Taishu temple and secretly suppress them. And Lin Feng's move to humiliate the Taishu temple at this moment made the Xianlin Taoist completely put him into the category of people who obstructed the path of the Taishu temple. This made the Xianlin Taoist officially hostile towards him. Lin Feng's expression was still calm as he looked at the Xianlin Taoist calmly. He was indeed deliberately humiliating the Taishu temple. Usually, everyone could live in harmony. Lin Feng always had Chungang in his hands, but he had never really played this card. But some things did not allow for the slightest concession. Since the Xianlin Taoist and Pang Jie wanted to protect Shi Tianyi and even tried in vain to invert the truth and seize the moral high ground to falsely accuse Lin Feng, then naturally, Lin Feng would not give them any face. If you don't want people to know, then don't do it. He would not frame you, but since you have done it, when you are humiliated, you have to stand up straight. The Taishu temple will always be the Taishu temple. Even if there are occasionally black sheep, it will not affect the good reputation of the temple, Lin Feng said silently, but the matter with Pang Jie, Xianlin Taoist should learn from it. Some people may indeed have some talent in the path of cultivation, but their nature is corrupt. It is really hard to carve a rotten wood. Beside the Xianlin Taoist, the Taishu demon suppressing steel's light flashed. His gaze pierced through the void and stared at Lin Feng. The matters of the Taishu Temple cannot be discussed by unrelated people. Lin Feng smiled carelessly. Unrelated people? Very well, now it is related. Since you have confirmed that Shi Tianyi is the heir of the Taishu Temple, now the disciple of the Xianmen Tianzong Temple would like to have a spar with the disciple of the Taishu Temple. But I wonder, do you dare to fight? Lin Feng clapped his hands lightly. The void behind him surged with clear light, and a tall celestial mountain appeared faintly. A figure flew down from the celestial mountain. He was dressed in purple, with black hair that reached his shoulders. His lips were red and his teeth were white. His face was handsome, and he looked no more than 12 or 13 years old. But the magical power rippling from his body was extremely majestic, and there was endless light surrounding his body. It was as if a god had descended. The person who came was the tiny Shi Tianhao. He had been in closed-door training for a long time, and he finally came out. Shi Tianhao came to the side of Lin Feng, and looked at the Xianlin Taoist fearlessly. He said calmly, Xianmen Tianzong disciple Shi Tianhao wishes to fight with the disciple of the Taishu Temple Tianyi. My little brother, do you dare to accept the challenge? Chapter 528. Shi Tianhao stood beside Lin Feng silently. His figure had already started to gradually grow taller. His face was still delicate, but the childishness had already started to fade. The youth that wasn't even 13 years old already had an extraordinary aura. No one dared to look down on him. When Shi Zongyue and the others looked over, they could see that he had the same golden elixir late-stage cultivation as Xiao Yan. However, his magic power was vast. Although it wasn't as violent as Xiao Yan's, it was more vigorous. He couldn't be measured by the standard of a golden elixir period cultivator. Especially when the clouds around his body gave birth to a strange phenomenon. It was as if a layer of fog was shrouding him, making him seem unfathomable. His black and white eyes were overflowing with spirit energy, and there was even a faint mysterious divine light flashing. Xiao Yan took off the dragon god heavenly armor and had already returned to Lin Feng's side. Shi Tianhao looked at him, and the two smiled at each other. Shi Tianhao is a natural-born sovereign. After suffering a tribulation and being reborn, will he surpass his original height? Even Shi Zongyue, northern militant Yuxian prince, and the other primordial spirit big shots had to face the tiny Shi Tianhao now. When Shi Tianhao was at the golden elixir middle stage, he had already brazenly killed a Yuanying middle stage opponent. Now that he had advanced to the golden elixir late stage, would he be like Xiao Yan and not even care about the heaven and earth manifestation of an ordinary late stage Yuanying cultivator? What made everyone shiver was that they gradually discovered that while the disciples of Xianmen Tianzong could look down on their opponents of the same realm, the higher their realm, the greater the gap between them and the cultivators of other forces. During the golden elixir early stage, Xiao Yan and Shi Tianhao could only rely on Yuanying magic tools to fight evenly with an early stage Yuanying cultivator. However, in the middle stage of the golden elixir, Shi Tianhao was able to kill enemies in the middle stage of the Yuanying at the cost of being seriously injured during the Battle of Kunlun Mountain. By the time he reached the later stages of the golden elixir, Xiao Yan would already be able to kill most of the later stages of the Yuanying realm. There were very few people below the primordial divinity realm who could fight him one-on-one. Normally, when a cultivator's cultivation level increased by one realm, their strength would also increase. However, every time a disciple of Xianmen Tianzong advanced by one realm, their strength would undergo an earth-shattering change. The difference was so great that it was shocking. When they found out that Shi Tianyi had formed Yuanying before the age of 17, a group of people gasped in admiration. It was not only because Shi Tianyi was young at the nascent soul stage, but also because Shi Tiany's past experience showed that he was also a super genius like Xiao Yan and Shi Tianhao, whose actual combat strength could surpass realms. His success in forming his nascent soul also meant that there were few opponents in the entire Yuanying realm. Even if an ordinary late-stage Yuanying patriarch revealed his Dharma idol, they would still not be his opponent. Such a proud son of heaven was indeed worthy of the title of heaven's chosen son of heaven. However, when Shi Tianhao stood side by side with Xiao Yan silently beside Lin Feng, a thought emerged in everyone's mind at the same time. Even so, can that big stone really defeat this small stone? If the small stone is as strong as that Xiao Yan, can the big stone defeat him? Shi Tianhao's expression was calm, and his clear voice echoed between heaven and earth. Xianmen Tianzong disciple Shi Tianhao wishes to have a battle with Shi Tiany, a disciple of Taishu Temple. My little brother, do you dare to have a battle with me? Do you dare to have a battle with me? Do you dare to have a battle with me? A smile appeared on Lin Feng's face. Purple qi floated around his body, and under the effect of his magic power, Shi Tianhao's voice was transmitted in all directions, transmitted between the vast heaven and earth. Whether it was a cultivator with cultivation or a mortal without, everyone could clearly hear his voice. Shi Tianhao, this was equivalent to issuing a challenge to Shi Tiany in front of everyone. Under Lin Feng's control, his voice passed through layers of space and reached the ancestral land of the Shi clan, the capital of the Great Qin dynasty, West Hill City, and the small mountain village where Shi Tianhao had been fostered in the past. Within the imperial palace of West Hill City, Qin Emperor Shi Yu and Prime Minister Wu Qingru sat facing each other. After a moment of silence, Shi Yu released the magic power restriction of West Hill City, allowing Shi Tianhao's voice to spread throughout the entire city. Wu Qingru's expression was tranquil, but his eyes constantly flickered, as if he was calculating something. Shi Tianhao's voice finally reached the mountain gate of the Taishu Temple, White Cloud Mountain. White Cloud Mountain was covered in white clouds all year round, and no one could see what was inside. Shi Tianhao's voice rang out 3 times outside White Cloud Mountain, and the white clouds suddenly opened up a path, allowing Lin Feng's purple qi to carry Shi Tianhao's voice into the mountain. Under the guidance of the white clouds, the purple qi arrived within a blessed land. Seeing this, Xianlin Taoist frowned slightly. Yan Nanlai. He did not say anything more, and a divine light shot out from his eyes, breaking through space and arriving within the cave of White Cloud Mountain. The surrounding spectators were all shocked. Xianlin Taoist's action was equivalent to accepting the challenge of master and disciple Lin Feng. Divine light appeared, and white clouds rose within the cave, revealing the figure of a youth. He was about 16 or 17 years old, and he was currently sitting cross-legged in meditation. He was tall and slender, with long black hair hanging down to his shoulders. His face was handsome and his eyes were closed. Clumps of white clouds constantly circled around him. Within the white clouds, countless talisman characters appeared, condensing into golden figures that floated within the white clouds. Behind the northern militant Yuxian prince, a group of northern militant cultivators had serious expressions. This is the dual-pupiled person, Shi Tiany? The purple qi brought Shi Tianhao's voice to the cave. My little brother, do you dare to fight with me? Hearing this, the youth in the white clouds still had his eyes closed. He tilted his head slightly. My good little brother, long time no see. Has your body recovered? This godlike youth was the dual-pupiled person, Shi Tiany. Ever since his debut, he had been recognized as the most outstanding genius of the younger generation, shaking the entire heaven primal world. He was destined to leave his name in the history books, becoming a legendary figure. Silently, Shi Tianhao looked at Shi Tiany in the image, and his gaze became deep and calm. Although Shi Tiany's tone was gentle and even a bit intimate, he could hear a kind of confidence and carelessness in it. In his carelessness, there was even a faint sense of ridicule. stealing the little Shi Tianhao's supreme Tao foundation and becoming his own peerless genius. Shi Tianyi did not seem to feel any guilt at all. He only had confidence and calmness. Shi Tianhao looked at the person in the image. It was this person who had seen through his supreme Tao foundation and then asked his mother to find someone to steal his Tao foundation and transfer it to him. This was why there were so many hardships after that. My little brother, what, do you only dare to hide in White Cloud Mountain? Shi Tianyi casually replied, It's been many years, I wonder if it's time for us to meet again? The implication was that after Shi Tianhao had lost the Supreme Spirit platform in the past, he did not even have the value to look at him again. Shi Tianhao looked at Shi Tianyi, who still had his eyes closed, and said indifferently, If you were in front of me now, you would never have to open your eyes again. You only dare to hide in White Cloud Mountain and talk big. If we were face to face, I would directly kill you and make you close your eyes forever. Since that's the case, then let's meet. Slowly, Shi Tianyi finally opened his eyes. Suddenly, divine light shot out in all directions. There were 2 pupils in each of his eyes, like the sun and the moon in the sky. Countless divine lights flashed in those pupils, containing a power that made people's hearts palpitate. Even Prince Yuxian, Lord Xingdou, Lord Gambling, and the others saw this pair of pupils, and their expressions became a bit more serious. He has only just formed his nascent soul. If he is allowed to continue to improve. Shi Zongyue's expression was complicated. I finally see him again. Compared to before, it really is an earth-shaking change. And it's not just his double pupils that have changed, there are also other changes. Shi Zongyue keenly noticed that in addition to the light of the sun and the moon in Shi Tianyi's double pupils, there was also a strange divine light flashing. Shi Tianyi formed his nascent soul, and the power of his double pupils increased by another level. But in addition to this, there were even more changes. He obtained the Supreme Tao Foundation that originally belonged to Shi Tianhao. On this foundation, he formed the Golden Elixir, and then formed his nascent soul, and he could obtain the great divine ability of the creation of heaven and earth. That was a power that only belonged to those who had a supreme spirit platform and formed a supreme pill cauldron, and it could only be truly manifested after forming his nascent soul. The proud Son of Heaven inherited the power of heaven and earth, and turned it into his own infinite divine ability. Blessed by heaven, truly blessed by heaven. Shi Tianyi first looked at Xianlin Taoist and the female cultivator of Taishu Temple through the magic power of light and shadow. Greetings, martial uncles. Then his gaze stopped on Lin Feng for a moment, and the 4 pupils in his eyes flashed together, but he felt that Lin Feng's body seemed to be covered by a layer of fog, and his pair of divine pupils actually hit a wall. Lin Feng faintly glanced at him, and Shi Tianyi's heart trembled. He withdrew his gaze, and only then did his line of sight shift to Shi Tianhao. His eyes shone again, and he calmly looked at the little Shi Tianhao. My good little brother, not bad, you really surprised me. Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi stared at each other. His gaze became more and more calm, and his whole spirit and temperament were changing, as if he was going through a transformation. My little brother, there's no need to say any unnecessary words between us. When will we fight? Shi Tianyi faintly said, You're not bad now, but it's still not enough. Continue to cultivate. Let me see, have you really gone through nirvana again? I don't know if you know that the cultivators who really have the Supreme Tao Foundation can only show their true elegance after forming the Yuanying period? I've already formed my nascent soul, and you're still in the Golden Elixir period. It's too boring to fight with you now. I'll wait for you in the Yuanying period. Shi Tianhao's tone was as light as the clouds and as light as the wind. Yuanying period? If I reach the Yuanying period, then the fight between you and me will be really boring. In the same realm, except for my fellow disciples in Xianmen Tianzong, I'm invincible. His voice wasn't loud and his tone was very calm, but it revealed a lot of domineering confidence. He was even more confident than the dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi. How about you form the Yuanying period? So what if you have dual pupils? So what if your Supreme Tao Foundation is starting to show its brilliance? It's precisely because I'm in the Golden Elixir period and you're in the Yuanying period that I'm fighting with you. If I also reach the Yuanying period, you're not worth mentioning at all. Fighting with you in the same realm, I'm bullying you. Shi Tianyi's expression finally changed a bit, and he very seriously looked at Shi Tianhao. My little brother, you and your fellow disciples are all too self-righteous. Shi Tianhao shook his head and bluntly asked, "Don't talk about other nonsense, I just want to ask you one thing. Fight with me, do you dare or not?" Chapter 529. Shi Tianhao was younger, but his bearing was even more domineering. "Don't give me that useless crap. I'll only ask you one question. Are you bold enough to fight me? Are you bold enough, or are you afraid?" Shi Tianyi stared at Shi Tianhao with his double pupils. He originally sat among the white clouds and golden light, but now, he slowly stood up. With that, the white clouds and golden light all shook up, as if a young god had stood up. "If you want to fight, then let's fight. Anytime, anywhere." Shi Tianhao smiled faintly. "Right now, right here. I'll wait for you. I'd like to see whether you have the courage to leave White Cloud Mountain or not." At this moment, the sky to the east of the ancestral grounds of the Yu family suddenly shook. Golden light flickered there, and 5 colored lights seeped through the golden light. The figure of a golden dragon flickered. The Emperor Stonefeather had not come personally, but he had projected a clone over with his powers. 2 young prodigies. You've not even reached the age of 20, yet you possess startling cultivation. The bloodline of my Shi clan flows through your veins. Your battle is both a pity for my great Qin Empire, but it's also a grand occasion. We need a suitable stage. Stonefeather's voice echoed through the surroundings. In a month's time, the Dragon Arena in the ancient Sky Dragon region of my great Qin Empire will be open to you. The Dragon Arena has a Dragonstone Gate. Only young descendants below the age of 20 who possess the bloodline of my Shi clan can engage in an intense battle, and the power produced from their collisions can open the gate. There are a large number of treasures in the Dragonstone Gate. The victor among you can enter the Dragonstone Gate. Startling light erupted from the eyes of both Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi. The Anliang King Shi Zongyue's expression changed slightly. "Your Majesty, the Sword Elder and Thundercloud Immortal behind Lin Feng, the Star Dipper and Gambling Dipper beside Shi Zongyue, and the Northern Militant Yuxian Prince were all surprised. As the oldest empire of cultivators in the Divine Land, one of the foundations of the Great Qin Empire in the past was the ancient Sky Dragon region. It was rumored to be the habitat of the archaic heavenly dragons in the Archaic Era. Afterwards, the spiritual qi there changed, and it was no longer suitable for the archaic heavenly dragons to inhabit. The dragons moved away immediately, searching for another suitable environment. However, it was an extremely suitable place for humans to cultivate, and there were many treasures left behind by the heavenly dragon. The founding monarch of the Great Qin dynasty relied on resources such as the ancient Sky Dragon domain to establish the Great Qin dynasty, expand its territory, and flourish to this day. There was a dragon arena in the ancient Sky Dragon domain, which was where the dragon clan dueled in the past. It was also the current core region of the ancient Sky Dragon domain. The ancestors of the Great Qin dynasty once had an almighty divine ability cultivator that set up a restriction here for the sake of encouraging his descendants to work hard. It required 2 people to fight each other, and the force of the collision would only be able to open the restriction. This restriction was called the Dragonstone Door. Behind the Dragonstone Door was an alternate dimension that Great Qin's ancestor had opened up, and within it were large amounts of rare treasures. In order to open the Dragonstone Gate, both sides had to fulfill 3 conditions. Firstly, both of them had to be descendants of the Shi clan. Secondly, both parties were under the age of 20. Thirdly, everyone's strength must be strong enough. How powerful would he have to be? There was no definite answer, but from ancient times until now, over 10,000 years, the Dragon's Stone Gate had only been opened twice. In the recent thousands of years, it had never been opened. It was rare enough to have one young prodigy, let alone two. But now, the conditions had been met again. Shi Tianyi, less than 17 years old, was at the early Yuanying stage, and had a supreme Tao foundation at the foundation establishment stage. He had double pupils, and was like a deity that had descended to the world. Since his debut, he had been regarded as the strongest of the younger generation, and would eventually become a legendary figure. Shi Tianhao, less than 13 years old, was already at the late Golden Elixir stage. After his supreme Tao foundation was stolen by Shi Tianyi, he was reborn and rose again. At the middle Golden Elixir stage, he killed the Yu clan's middle Yuanying stage ancestor, shocking the entire Divine Land. Both of them were from the Shi clan, which was a branch of the great Qin dynasty's imperial family. Although their bloodline was a bit distant, they still had the bloodline of the great Qin dynasty's ancestors. Old Sword Immortal and Tao Master Thundercloud looked at each other, thinking at the same time, no matter who wins or loses, the Qin Emperor has made a good deal. It's just that this battle has already attracted the attention of the world, and now it will attract even more attention. The space on the other side split open, and the Shi clan's patriarch, Shi Wu, slowly walked out, but Zen Master Dade had disappeared. The Yu clan had been destroyed, and Zen Master Dade had completed his mission. He no longer needed to tangle with Shi Wu, so he had already returned to Yujing Mountain. Shi Wu's face was as gloomy as water. His gaze fell on the two brothers, Shi Tianyi and Shi Tianhao, and he did not speak for a long time. At this moment, Shi Wu had no time to think about what effect Qin Emperor Shi Yu's decision would have on the Shi clan, and what effect it would have on the great Qin dynasty's sweeping purge of the aristocratic families. Ever since he had reached the primordial soul realm, Shi Wu had rarely been absent-minded. However, at this moment, when he looked at Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi, he was absent-minded for a moment. They were originally his Shi clan's disciples. Shi Tianhao and Shi Tianyi looked at each other, and after a long time, they nodded at the same time. "I'll be waiting for you in a month." The group of primordial soul realm experts looked at the two brothers with complicated gazes. In their long lives, they had seen too many geniuses, so many that they felt numb to them, and would no longer be moved by them. Without achieving Golden Elixir, one's lifespan would be less than 100 years. Without Yuanying, one's lifespan would be less than 1,000 years. Without attaining primordial soul, after 60 years, everything would be for naught. Not to mention dying prematurely and being killed by others. However, the big stone and little stone in front of them were still able to amaze them. The big one had a heavy and majestic aura, and his heroic spirit was bursting forth from within. He had already formed a momentum that could soar into the sky. The small one was still somewhat immature, but he displayed an even more terrifying momentum. Not long ago, he was a young child on the verge of death, but now, he had already brazenly caught up to his opponent, glaring at them like a tiger watching its prey. The gazes of Shi Zongyue and the others turned to look at Lin Feng, who was dressed in a purple robe and had an indifferent expression. There was even a hint of a smile on his face. Everyone then looked at Xiao Yan, who was standing beside Lin Feng and Shi Tianhao. He was also a peerless genius who was not inferior to Shi Tianhao at all. As the eldest disciple of the sect leader under Lin Feng, Xiao Yan's status could not be said to be low, but in the eyes of the world, he was not as dazzling as his junior brothers Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao. On one hand, it was because Zhu Yi and Shi Tianhao had a special family background. On the other hand, it was because Xiao Yan had been secluding himself in Yujing Mountain for a long time. Ever since the battle outside the Sand Continent City, and the fierce battle with the crown prince of the Qin dynasty, Shi Chongyun, on the cloud-traversing peak, Xiao Yan had disappeared from people's sight. Like a fleeting flower, a shooting star streaked across the sky. After that, he did not participate in the Wilderness Sea Assembly, nor did he participate in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain. He also did not participate in the exploration of the Kunpeng's hidden treasure. Not only did he miss a series of important events in Xianmen Tianzong, he did not even show his face in front of outsiders. It was to the extent that a few people even thought that Zhu Yi was the eldest disciple of Xianmen Tianzong. Even Wang Lin, who had accumulated a lot of experience and suddenly rose from the early stage of foundation establishment to the early stage of golden elixir, attracted more attention than Xiao Yan in the end. Just like that, the eldest disciple under Lin Feng gradually quietened down. Until today, when Xiao Yan suddenly reappeared in the world, like a tyrant who had awakened from his slumber. With his own strength, he overturned everyone in the Yu clan except for the primordial divinity expert, Yu Xintao. It was almost as if he had single-handedly wiped out the Yu clan. Such a performance caused even a group of primordial divinity experts to raise their eyebrows. Looking at him and Shi Tianhao, everyone looked at Lin Feng again, and their expressions suddenly became even more solemn. To be able to teach such a disciple, and not just one or two, he still has other personal disciples under him. At this moment, Lin Feng looked calmly at Xianlin Taoist and said lightly, "In that case, I will wait and see together with your noble sect." This can also be considered as the first disciple exchange between Xianmen Tianzong and your noble sect. We will see each other in a month. When the image of Shi Tianyi was brought over, Xianlin Taoist's expression had completely recovered. Silently, his eyes looked at Lin Feng and said, "Everything will be revealed in a month." The image of Shi Tianyi disappeared, and Xianlin Taoist's body also gradually disappeared into the void. The female cultivator of Taishu Temple beside him sighed and also disappeared. Xianming Dao Master Yu Xintao's face was ashen. He stared straight at Lin Feng and did not say a word. The destruction of the original spirit of the Xianming treasure was equivalent to the destruction of the masterless Xianming Bao. Xiao Yan had just used his dragon god heavenly armor to silently take it. Lin Feng looked at Yu Xintao indifferently. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the Xianming Bao that was still vibrating. Immediately, the Xianming Bao lost its vitality and was suppressed by Lin Feng's Fa Li until it became obedient. Blood appeared in Yu Xintao's eyes, and his expression was frighteningly gloomy. However, he was unable to take back his Dharma treasure, and could only retreat behind Xianlin Taoist and the others. "Yu Xintao, who allowed you to leave?" At this moment, Lin Feng's voice sounded faintly in the air. Yu Xintao's body stiffened. Xianlin Taoist frowned and looked expressionlessly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng did not care and looked back at him. As if talking to himself, he said, "Some people can leave and some can't." Hearing these words, which did not seem to be directed at Yu Xintao, Xianlin Taoist's eyes flashed slightly. Lin Feng did not look at him anymore. Instead, his gaze swept across the Yu clan's ancestral grounds, which had already turned into ruins. There were still some Yu clan members left there. "I am not bloodthirsty." The Yuanian cultivators of the Yu clan, who surrounded and attacked my disciple Tianhao's family, have all been killed. The rest of the Yu clan members will not be affected, Lin Feng said faintly. But remember, those who offend my Xianmen Tianzong will be killed no matter how far away they are. He looked at Yu Xintao. "Yu Xintao, I have already let you off once on Kunlun Mountain. This time, you will not be able to leave." The female cultivator from the Taishu Temple frowned and said, "You have already destroyed the Yu clan's Xianming treasure book and destroyed the Yu clan's ancestral grounds. Any enmity should be settled. If you continue to be so overbearing, it is too much. It is not easy for Lord Xianming to attain the primordial soul. Any primordial soul cultivator is extremely precious to the human cultivation world. Why does the master of the Xianmen have to kill them all? Lin Feng smiled faintly. To fight against the demon clan, it is indeed necessary to unite the many experts of the human race. It is for the sake of unity that I have said this. He pointed at the gloomy Yu Xintao. In the future, when the two worlds go to war, I do not want someone to stab me in the back. I am not afraid, but I do not like it, Lin Feng said calmly. So, if there is a problem, I will solve it now. Chapter 530. Xianlin Taoist silently looked at Lin Feng, a divine light flashing in his eyes. Master of the celestial sect of wonders, you've crossed the line. Lin Feng smiled carelessly. The line drawn by others doesn't mean that it's my line. As he spoke, Lin Feng didn't stand on ceremony. He stretched out his palm toward Yu Xintao in the distance, and gently clenched his fist. Smash the universe! The void in front of Lin Feng suddenly shattered into a wasteland. The chaotic flow of earth, water, fire, and wind surged violently, turning into a turbulent flow that impacted the entire world. Yu Xintao's expression changed slightly. This spell of Lin Feng's was extremely fierce. If he was at his peak, he might have had a chance to protect himself by relying on the Xianming treasured book. But now that the Xianming treasured book was destroyed and he was seriously injured, he could only wait for death in the face of Lin Feng's smash the universe. A round light spot appeared on Xianlin Taoist's forehead, like a small round mirror. This round mirror was shining brightly, like the sun shining on all things. Taishu Temple's spell, the great void heaven illuminating mirror technique. The mirror light was like the eye of heaven, watching the entire world. There was no sadness, no joy, no anger, no resentment. It was tranquil and peaceful, but it controlled everything and dominated everything. It was as if the heavenly Tao was above, with boundless love, but also emotionless and without desire, calmly watching all living beings. Under the gaze of this gaze, everything seemed to be watched by the will of the great Tao, deterred, and dared not act rashly. Even the frantic flow of earth, water, fire, and wind, under the illumination of the mirror light, were gradually frozen, unable to cause trouble. Lin Feng's expression didn't change. He smiled slightly and changed the seal on his right hand. An invisible, formless, shadowless, and colorless storm suddenly swept the world. 4 symbols: heaven, opening book, wind, divine wind. The world changes in an instant. A flash of light has passed for 1,000 years. As Lin Feng let out a long chant, the scene in the void suddenly changed. The mirror light of the great void heaven illuminating treasured mirror actually disappeared. Lin Feng shattered the cosmos, and the chaos turned into earth, water, fire, and wind that went berserk once again. It wasn't that Lin Feng had broken Xianlin Taoist's cosmic heaven illuminating treasured mirror technique, but that his cosmic light divine wind had reversed the flow of time and dissolved the cosmic heaven illuminating treasured mirror technique. The violent turbulence was like the end of the world as it continued to rush towards Yu Xintao. Xianlin Taoist shook his head slightly, his left hand formed a seal, and a boundless hex power surged. The spell of the Taishu Temple, time recollection. Under the effect of Xianlin Taoist's magic power, the flow of time between heaven and earth suddenly returned to the moment when the Taishu heaven illuminating treasure mirror technique froze the earth, water, fire, and wind. Under the effect of time recollection, Xianlin Taoist erased the effect of Lin Feng's cosmic light divine wind. This spell of his was actually the nemesis of the cosmic light divine wind. In a short moment, the scene between heaven and earth changed continuously, and the onlookers were amazed. Lin Feng and Xianlin Taoist, in the time it took for ordinary people to react, had already crossed swords many times. Both sides were making a fuss about the mystery of time, and neither side was giving way to the other. At the same time, Lin Feng and Xianlin Taoist both made new moves. Xianlin Taoist's left eye suddenly burst with a fierce brilliance, and a transparent jade with a surface of 1,000 prism flew out. Countless rays of brilliance refracted, and immediately protected Yu Xintao, covering him in thousands of layers of space. These layers of space overlapped and fell together like mirrors. Every mirror had Yu Xintao's existence, and the void and reality coexisted with each other, changing endlessly. This was his own magic treasure, the 1,000-prism flowing light mirror, which created thousands of planes of time and space at the same time. The thousands of illusions were all real, but they could also become fake in the next instant. And on the opposite side, Lin Feng raised his hand, and a purple flag that emitted a rainbow light flew into midair. Beside the purple flag, there was a huge black stone tablet, and on the surface of the stone tablet were the words Eternal Night. Seeing this, Xianlin Taoist frowned slightly. Night Demon Sex Eternal Night Devil Steel? This magic treasure has been missing for tens of thousands of years. Wait, could it be that Golden Rock and Cheong Qi found it, and as a treasure to set up the 9 glory sky shattering array, it fell into your hands in the cloudy forest world? Lin Feng smiled, but didn't reply. Under the activation of his magic power, the Eternal Night Devil Steel was silent, as if it didn't move at all. However, a power concept that could suppress all things and cause everything in the world to fall into a deep slumber instantly spread out. The world seemed to suddenly turn dark. There was no sound, no light, no sense of the existence of space, and no sense of the flow of time. It was as if there was no light, a world that had fallen into eternal darkness, a world that was in a deep slumber. Under the effects of the Eternal Night Devil Steel, the 1,000-prism flowing light mirrors' thousands of transformations were instantly restrained. Although it couldn't suppress the 1,000-prism flowing light mirror, it forced the 1,000-prism flowing light mirror to fully defend itself, and could only let Yu Xintao out. The moment Yu Xintao appeared, the purple flag that emitted a rainbow light in the sky instantly rolled, and a boundless suction force was about to sweep Yu Xintao away. Xianlin Taoist's expression became a little more solemn, and his right eye also shone brightly. Within the light, a stone staircase flew out, and it was another powerful magic treasure. It was like a path to the heavens, and when Yu Xintao landed on it, it was as if he wanted to ascend to the heavens in a single step. A huge force that seemed to be able to overturn the world carried Yu Xintao away from the purple flag's suction force. Lin Feng said indifferently, "It's a good magic treasure, but how many more do you have?" As he spoke, a red and yellow light flashed between Lin Feng's eyebrows, and the Dragon God Sky armor turned into a ray of light. It didn't need anyone to wear it, and it directly flew across the sky like a cannonball, slamming heavily into the stone staircase. The stone staircase shook violently, and Yu Xintao immediately fell from it. Xianlin Taoist wanted to save him, but Lin Feng had already blocked his path. Just like that, the purple flag that emitted a rainbow light immediately rolled, and Yu Xintao was sucked into the flag. As the purple light flashed, Yu Xintao let out a miserable cry. The Yuan Shun incarnation that appeared in the form of a black ice soul tried to resist, but it was to no avail. Hundreds of thousands, even millions of purple runes and incantations were shot into the black ice soul, forming one picture after another, deeply engraved on Yu Xintao's Yuan Shun. Old Sword Immortal, Tao Master Thundercloud, Shi Zongyue and the others were all shocked. "This is," Xianlin Taoist stared at Lin Feng and the purple flag. "You imprisoned his Yuan Shun?" Lin Feng grabbed the purple flag and waved it slightly. Light flashed on the flag, and Yu Xintao's figure appeared. He had a painful expression, but he was unable to resist. "You want to preserve the strength of the human cultivation world, right?" Lin Feng said indifferently. "Yes, I also took into account that it was not easy for him to cultivate the primordial spirit, so I let him live. But the death penalty can be avoided, but the punishment cannot be forgiven. He has repeatedly invaded my Xianmen Sky sect. He must receive the punishment he deserves." I won't make things difficult for him, nor will I torture him, nor will I refine his Yuan Shen. Although he is on my Xiantian God sealing flag, he can still cultivate by breathing in the spirit qi of heaven and earth. If a war really breaks out between the Divine Land and Tianhuang continent, I will send him to the front line to redeem himself. His fate in the future will depend on his own luck. Lin Feng looked straight at Xianlin Taoist and said calmly, "If he is under my supervision, I can spare his life." The female cultivator of Taishu Temple next to Xianlin Taoist said bitterly, "If you imprison his Yuan Shen, even if you can keep him alive and continue to cultivate, he has no freedom at all. His life is in your hands, so what's the difference between that and death?" "It's worse than death, she didn't continue. Only the demon sect had such means, but Lin Feng had just used the matter of Pang Jie to slap her in the face. It was inevitable that she would be a little short of breath if she mentioned such a thing again. Lin Feng's expression was still as calm as before. "I've already refined this treasure for a long time. This Yu Xintao is the first person to get on the flag. My motto has always been, if people don't offend me, I won't offend them. For him to end up like this, he has only himself to blame. It's fine if I don't imprison his Yuan Shen. I can give him a quick death at any time." Although Lin Feng had killed Xian Longxing's Dharmakaya and captured the Shaoyang and Taiyin swords at the Tianjia Peak sword trials, he didn't kill anyone and let the people of Mount Shu sword sect go back. But today, he showed his ruthless means again. Everyone couldn't help but recall that just a year ago, in the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, he killed Tao Master Tianfeng and suppressed the Golden Crow Sage without mercy. Xianlin Taoist stared at Lin Feng. The human emotions in his eyes gradually faded and finally returned to calmness. It was as if all things in creation had returned to nirvana. His mana became more and more majestic. At this moment, a white cloud suddenly fell from the sky and covered him and the female Tao Master next to him. A voice came from the cloud, "That's it for today." Xianlin Taoist's eyes changed, and a strong and complex emotion emerged again. He looked at Lin Feng expressionlessly and let the cloud take him away. The cloud rolled and unrolled. Xianlin Taoist and Lin Feng had returned to White Cloud Mountain. "Uncle." Xianlin Taoist bowed to the cloud. A grand will came from the cloud. It was like the sky and earth, everywhere, so vast that it couldn't be explored. "Xianlin, you are anxious." Xianlin Taoist, a member of the Taishu Temple Supreme Elders Association and an expert in the third tier of the primordial soul realm, bowed to accept the lesson. "Uncle is right. The conservatives are also anxious." The will said silently, "They want to use Xianmen Tianzong to stop us from advancing, and then let them clean up the situation. But they never thought that going too far is as bad as not doing enough." After a pause, the voice sounded again. "Xianlin, you tell Tianyi the truth about Master Yu's matter." Xianlin Dao Venerable was defeated in front of Lin Feng and was unable to protect Yu Xintao. It was already a great loss of face. If he went to inform Shi Tianyi about the matter at this time, his face could be said to be completely lost. But he didn't hesitate and nodded. "I will take responsibility." After Shi Tianyi received the news, his expression didn't change at all. He just closed his eyes silently. After a long time, he opened his eyes. His eyes flashed and he said solemnly, "Uncle, please help me prepare. Martial Uncle, please help me prepare. I want to enter the battlefield of the void." The void battlefield was a place of death for most people, but there were always exceptions. Taishu Temple had a way to enter the void battlefield freely, but the opportunity was extremely precious and limited. It was so rare that every disciple of Taishu Temple only had one chance in their lifetime. In the void battlefield there are treasures that can make me stronger. Chapter 531. Yu Xintao, whose Yuan Shen was imprisoned by Lin Feng on the Xiantian God-sealing flag, watched as Xianlin Taoist and Xiao Yunyun were swept away by the white cloud. A look of despair appeared on Yu Xintao's face. His last hope was also shattered. Prince Anliang, Shi Zongyue, Bairong Yuxian, and the others were also shocked by this scene. In the end, Taishu Temple actually took a step back. Elder Sword Immortal and Dao Master Thundercloud looked at each other and thought to themselves, "We'll see the results in a month." They watched as Lin Feng put away the Xiantian God Sealing Flag, the Eternal Night Devil Steel, and the Dragon God Heavenly Armor. They smiled bitterly. It's said that Xianmen Tianzong's foundation is weak, but this Xianmen sect master has so many Dharma treasures. Lin Feng put away the Dharma treasures and looked at Elder Sword Immortal and Shi Zongyue with a smile. "I've made a few new Dharma treasures. Please don't laugh at me." Elder Sword Immortal and the others shook their heads. With their eyesight, they could naturally see that Lin Feng's Dharma treasures were only at the spirit-nurturing level. Apart from the Eternal Night Devil Steel, which was not made by him, the Xiantian God Sealing Flag, and the Dragon God Heavenly Armor were only at the spirit-nurturing level. But they were so domineering that no one dared to underestimate them. Lin Feng looked at Dao Master Thundercloud and Elder Sword Immortal and said, "In a month, I sincerely invite the two of you to attend the ceremony. I hope you can spare some time to come." Both of them smiled and nodded. "Although it's a battle between juniors, it's still a rare event. We will naturally come." Lin Feng then greeted Shi Zongyue and Prince Yuxian. Then, he smiled and took Xiao Yan and Shi Tianhao with him, disappearing into the void. Everyone looked in the direction where Lin Feng and his disciple disappeared. They were silent for a long time and had many thoughts in their mind. Looking at the ruins of the Yu family's ancestral land and the place where Xianlin Taoist and the others disappeared, they felt that today's battle had a profound impact. There was no need to mention anything else, but one thing was already clear. From then on, Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong became existences that could not be ignored in the Divine Land. Anyone who planned anything would have to consider Lin Feng's reaction and thoughts. Within the imperial palace of the Darqin dynasty's capital, Westum City, a middle-aged man who wore a crown and a dragon robe, and he emanated the aura of an emperor sat upright on the throne. He was the Emperor of Qin, Stonefeather. Standing before Stonefeather was a man that seemed like a scholar. He had a refined appearance and a deep gaze that seemed like an ocean that contained everything, yet was bottomless and unfathomable. It was precisely the Grand Qin Empire's Prime Minister, Wu Qingru. Wu Qingru sighed softly. "Does your Majesty think that little Shirtu will win against big Shirtu?" Qin Emperor Stonefeather said indifferently, "We are indeed more optimistic about Shi Tianhao." Wu Qingru said, "Whether it is Shi Tianyi or Shi Tianhao, it is impossible for them to inherit the great Qin dynasty. There had once been a rumor that the crown prince of the Qin dynasty, Shi Chongyun, had talent but no virtue. He was not qualified to inherit the throne, and his virtue was not enough to become emperor. It just so happened that Qin Emperor Stonefeather did not have many children. Among the princes, Shi Chongyun was the only talented one. Therefore, there had been a period of time when the news of the innate genius, the dual-pupiled person, Shi Tianyi, being adopted by the Shi clan to the royal family and becoming the future successor of the Qin emperor spread like wildfire. In reality, this was not completely a rumor. There had been a period of time when Qin Emperor Stonefeather really did have such thoughts. He was not worried that Shi Tianyi, who was born in the Shi clan, would cause the clan's power to expand further after he succeeded the throne. If Shi Tianyi could ascend to the throne, it would definitely not be the Shi clan that would help him. With his talent and potential, it was even more impossible for him to be controlled by the Shi clan in the future. If Shi Tianyi ascended to the throne, he would naturally look at things from the perspective of the Qin emperor. At that time, he would probably be even more powerful than Stonefeather, and his methods would be even crueler. However, the matter of adoption was no small matter. The Qin Emperor Stonefeather could not make up his mind for the time being. At the same time, the matter of Shi Tiany's adoption was extremely controversial. Stonefeather did not choose to act arbitrarily. What caused Stonefeather to completely give up on this idea was that Shi Tiany had entered the Taishu Temple and become a core disciple of the Taishu Temple. A disciple of the Taishu Temple, and a core disciple of the core, a true disciple of the true disciples. It was impossible for the Qin dynasty to make such a person emperor, not even the position of heir apparent. Slowly, Stonefeather looked at Wu Qingru and said, Shi Tiany can't, Shi Tian Hao can't either. Wu Qingru nodded. Now it depends on what the Shi clan does. Stonefeather's face was hidden behind the crown. We have already given them the chance. Wu Qingru smiled slightly. Stonefeather looked towards him. The current situation should be what you are most happy to see, right? Frankly speaking, it's not. The expression on Wu Qingru's face was a little difficult to understand. It has already exceeded my expectations. His eyes grew deeper. The variables that Xianmen Tianzong has brought are really not small. Mount Tongtian, where the Nine Heavens Sword Alliance's second-ranked sect was located. In the Sword Pavilion at the top of the mountain, Old Sword Immortal had already returned to the mountain and was sitting cross-legged. Opposite him were several groups of sword chi that had condensed into human figures. The leading one was a middle-aged man dressed in a green robe, and his sword intent soared into the sky. He was the sect master of the Heavenly Sword Sect, the current Sword Immortal Tongtian. Martial Granduncle, you have worked hard. Old Sword Immortal was the first to bow to Sword Immortal Tongtian. Sect Master is too polite. I have gained a lot from this trip. After Sword Immortal Tongtian returned the greeting, he sat down first, and the other people behind him also bowed to Old Sword Immortal. After Old Sword Immortal sat down, he said, Now it seems that the rise of Xianmen Tianzong is unstoppable. Sword Immortal Tongtian said, In a month's time, in the battle between the Shi brothers in the ancient Sky Dragon domain, if the dual-pupiled individual wins, Xianmen Tianzong's momentum will be thwarted. If the dual-pupiled individual loses, then it will depend on what Xianlin Taoist and the others will do. Once the situation becomes chaotic, there will be many variables. The enemies of Xianmen Tianzong in the past may flock to him. Old Sword Immortal slowly nodded his head. The experts of the radical faction of the Void Temple will not be willing to accept their own defeat. If the dual-pupiled person wins, then that's fine, but if the dual-pupiled person loses, then things will definitely not be good. If the dual-pupiled individual wins, things will not be good either. Sword Immortal Tongtian's tone was somewhat ethereal. Previously, no one believed that the Master of the Celestial Gate would become enemies with the Taishu Temple for a disciple. But after today's matter, he has already shown his determination. In his words, there is no room for negotiation. Sword Immortal Tongtian continued, Yes, it is said that the Master of the Celestial Gate is protective, but now it seems that it is far more than the rumors. Sword Immortal Tongtian's gaze swept across the several people in the Sword Pavilion, all of whom were primordial spirit experts of the Heavenly Sword Sect. Today we have already made our stance clear, and also completed the task entrusted to us by others. Next we just need to wait and see. Sword Immortal Tongtian and the others nodded in agreement. Among the mountains of Western Shu, there were 6 sword-like mountains. Sword chi surged between the mountains, and another mountain was suspended in the air. This was where the mountain gate of the Mount Shu Sword Sect was located. At this moment, in the main hall of one of the 6 mountains, a few people were sitting opposite each other. Their expressions were all gloomy. The Taishu Temple is in internal strife, and Xianmen Tianzong is also involved. This is the best opportunity for us to wash away our shame. One of them was Sword Immortal Xiaoshang, whose expression was incomparably serious. The Xiaoyang and Taiyin swords must be taken back. Sword Immortal Xiaoze and Sword Immortal Li's expressions were gloomy. Sword Immortal Guanchong, who was beside them, was as cold as a stone statue. His void-return Dharma body had been destroyed, and his cultivation had fallen back to the first tier of the primordial spirit realm. He had suffered the greatest losses in the Heaven Track Peak sword trials. A middle-aged man sat on the main seat. He had a square face, and his aura was majestic and steady. He was Sword Immortal Xiaoyang, who had presided over Mount Shu and had not gone to Heaven Track Peak. The sect master and the few grand elders are still in seclusion. If they don't come out, do you want to be humiliated again? Sword Immortal Xiaoyang said lightly. Sword Immortal Xiaoshang frowned slightly. Xiaoyang, your lineage's legacy treasure has been lost. A person stood behind Sword Immortal Xiaoyang. It was Sword Immortal Towering Sky, who had brought the Xiaoyang sword to Heaven Track Peak. When he heard that, he immediately looked ashamed. On the other side, Sword Immortal Moonshine of the Taiyin lineage also looked ashamed. Sword Immortal Xiaoyang said silently, "If the sect master and the others don't come out, you will only pay with the other 4 swords if you look for the sect master." Sword Immortal Xiaoshang, Sword Immortal Junior, Sword Immortal Li, and Sword Immortal Guanchong all paled. That's right. The Heaven Track Peak sword trials lost to the sect master because we were unable to set up the complete 6-meridian Immortal Heaven sword formation. But now, how can we also set up a complete sword formation? Sword Immortal Xiaoshang said unhurriedly, "I don't have the Xiaoyang sword. Although martial uncle Guanchong has the Chong sword, his void-return Dharma body has been destroyed. Moonshine of the Taiyin lineage has not cultivated a void-return Dharma body, and she has lost the Taiyin sword. If we look for the sect master now, we will only be following the old path of the Heaven Track Peak sword trials." Sword Immortal Xiaoshang let out a long sigh. After a long while, he said, "You are right. The situation may be chaotic, but how can placing your hopes on others compare to your own strength? It was I who fell into a demonic trap," Sword Immortal Xiaoshang said frankly. Sword Immortal Xiaoshang said calmly, "My Shu Mountain has been too smooth these years, so much so that even I am a little lost." Silently, Sword Immortal Xiaoshang said, "Everything will wait for Sect Master and the others to come out of seclusion. After the Battle of Heaven Track Peak, Sect Master has gained more compared to the time in the Cloudy Forest realm. This time, when he goes into seclusion with the Grand Elders, he might be able to have a major breakthrough." Slowly, he said, "Moreover, it might not be impossible for us to make it in a month's time." Hearing this, the eyes of the others all lit up. On Jade Capital Mountain, Lin Feng stood calmly at the peak of the Mystic Heaven Treasure Tree. Xiao Yan and the others stood in front of him. Lin Feng was currently looking at Xiao Yan with an amused expression. "You were very happy just now. Now you're suffering, right?" Xiao Yan laughed bitterly. "The difficulty and danger of fusing 3 kinds of true fire really cannot be compared to 2 kinds of true fire. I myself felt that I almost failed. It was just that I refused to give up. In any case, I finally completed it. But the consumption was really great. Even with the protection of Master's magic treasure, I still felt like I was almost drained dry. This feels even more tiring than when I fused true fire for the first time on Cloud Traversing Peak." Chapter 532. After the battle, the first disciple of the Xianmen Tianzong sect master, Xiao Yan, became renowned throughout the Divine Continent. He possessed 4 great true fires and had a cultivation of the late Gold Core stage. He had killed 3 late Yuanying stage ancestors of the Yu clan and other Yuanying stage cultivators. With the strength of a single person, he had flattened the Yu clan's mansion in West Hill City. After Lin Feng's avatar kept the patriarch of the Yu family busy and the heaven-crushing sword Qi breached the protective formation of the ancestral grounds, Xiao Yan flattened the Yu family's manor in the ancestral grounds. This battle caused Xiao Yan's name to rise and spread throughout the world, and the Yu family became the stepping stone for his rise. The Yu family, one of the 4 great clans of the Great Qin Empire, had completely declined. Even the soul of their patriarch, Yu Xintao, had been imprisoned by Lin Feng using the arcane treasure, the heavenly profound god sealing banner. Only a few members of the great clan remained, living in constant fear. This battle also allowed the world to witness the terror of the successor of Xianmen Tianzong, which made them feel even more reverence towards the legendary master of the Taoist sect of wonders, Lin Feng. However, it was also during this battle that discord arose between Xianmen Tianzong and the number 1 sacred ground of the Divine Land, the Taishu Temple, because of the grievances between the disciples of both sides. The 2 sides set up a battle agreement. It was called a spar, but everyone knew that the battle between the Shi brothers would probably be a battle to the death. The battle would take place in a month's time. By then, the 2 sides would fight to the death on a rather legendary stage like the Dragon Arena of the ancient Heavenly Dragon Domain. The battle agreement would be announced to the world, attracting everyone's attention. At this moment, Xiao Yan was on Yujing Mountain. He looked at Lin Feng with an awkward smile. 3 true fires really aren't something you can play around with so easily. Lin Feng smiled. I'm just urging you to cultivate properly. When you clashed with someone earlier, the disciples on the mountain saw the entire battle. Xiao Yan grinned. Fortunately, I succeeded. Otherwise, I would have embarrassed myself on the entire Yujing Mountain. He glanced at Shi Tianhao. You're even more so. A smile appeared on Shi Tianhao's face. Don't worry, master. I will definitely win the battle in a month. Lin Feng nodded. Suddenly, his heart stirred and he turned to look at the void on the other side. A crack appeared in the void and a handsome young man wearing a violet robe with golden edges walked out. It was Miao Shihao. However, when everyone saw Miao Shihao, they were slightly taken aback, and felt that he was very different from before. He was still the same person. His facial features were still extraordinarily handsome, and his aura of transcendence energy was the same as the ethereal illusion art that he had cultivated. However, his entire temperament was completely different. Brother Shihao, who had always been enchanting, charming, and peerless in his generation, now had a dignified expression with a hint of worry. He didn't have the slightest trace of makeup or feminine femininity. Instead, he looked like a talented scholar. He had a noble temperament and an awe-inspiring demeanor. Miao Shihao solemnly bowed to Lin Feng and said with a serious expression, "Congratulations, sect leader, for defeating the arrogance of those from Taishu Temple." Lin Feng looked at him calmly and nodded in return. "Shihao, you're too kind." Shi Tianhao asked curiously, "Mr. Miao, what's wrong with you? Why do I feel that you're completely different from before?" "There's nothing different. I'm still me." Miao Shihao smiled slightly. "When the fake is real, the real is fake. When the real is fake, the fake is real. Flowers in the mirror, the moon reflected in the water, dreams, illusions, bubbles, and shadows. Everything may not be real, and illusions may not be fake." His temperament gradually changed, and he became feminine again. He turned back into the sissy that everyone was familiar with. His gloomy gaze also changed back to the peach blossom eyes of the past. He looked at Lin Feng, and his eyes seemed to be dripping water. He covered his mouth and smiled tenderly. "Anyway, thank you, sect leader, for helping me vent my anger." This time, Lin Feng did not roll his eyes. Instead, he looked at Miao Shihao very seriously. "Congratulations, Shihao, your ethereal illusion technique cultivation has improved to the next level." Miao Shihao smiled tenderly and said, "That's also thanks to you, sect leader." He looked up at the sky and said with a smile, "I only feel that the shackles in my heart have been slightly removed. My whole body suddenly feels much more relaxed." Lin Feng directly threw him into the mysterious Heaven-Time cave. Since that's the case, then go in and cultivate obediently. Strive to cultivate the heaven and earth manifestation as soon as possible. Miao Shihao was no longer present. Xiao Yan shivered all over and said with lingering fear, "Every time I see Mr. Miao, I feel uncomfortable all over." Lin Feng said with a smile, "All right, don't talk nonsense. Go back and nourish your magic power. The fusion of 3 types of true fire is still a very big burden for you now." Xiao Yan nodded and looked at Shi Tianhao. If little junior brother has been in seclusion in the mysterious Heaven-Time cave for a month, it will be equivalent to more than 8 years. Shi Tianhao said with a smile, "It's useless to have so much time. After the previous seclusion, my magic power have now reached the peak of the golden elixir period. What I'm missing from forming my nascent soul is not magic power, but the tempering of my mind. This is not something that can be achieved by meditating. Although I have to defeat my little brother in the Yuanying stage in the golden elixir period, if I also form my nascent soul, I will be very happy to directly crush him." Shi Tianhao revealed a somewhat sly smile. "However, it is indeed not possible to form my nascent soul just by meditating. I have a feeling that the best time for me to form my nascent soul is after the battle with my little brother." At this point, Shi Tianhao's expression became a little more solemn. "I am now trying my best to figure out the Dermic Tao that Master taught me and temper my magic power to prepare for the battle in a month's time." Xiao Yan nodded. After bidding farewell to Lin Feng and Shi Tianhao, he returned to his Burning Heaven Cliff. In Burning Heaven Cliff, apart from Lu Xiaofeng and little fatty Yan Wuwei, Su Yunxing, Ying Luojia, and Li Xingfei were also gathered here because Zhu Yi had left the mountain. Usually, when they had problems with Dermic Tao, they would ask their great martial uncle Xiao Yan for advice. At this moment, they were gathered together. Even the usually calm Su Yunxing's face was a little red, appearing to be very excited. Little fatty Yan Wuwei even danced with joy, spittle flying as he spoke. How is it? What did I say? Isn't my master powerful? He doesn't usually fight with others. That's because he doesn't want to fight. If my master fights, it will be earth-shattering. Do you believe me now? My master is practically a fire god descending into the world." Other than the 5 who had entered the inner chamber, there were more than 10 youths present. They were all second-generation disciples who had always been on good terms with them. At this moment, all of their faces were red and they were all extremely excited. Even if little fatty's spittle was about to splash on their faces, no one cared. Instead, they were all excited. Elder Xiao is so strong. A late-stage golden elixir fighting a late-stage Yuanying cultivator, and it's not just 1 or 2. Lu Xiaofeng pulled little fatty Yan Wuwei back, smiling as he asked him to calm down. However, he also felt very carefree. Master's 2 fires were indeed very satisfying. The first fire burned the Yu clan's residence in West Hill City. The second fire was even fiercer, burning several Yu clan's Yuanying ancestors to death. Among them, there were even 2 late-stage Yuanying cultivators. Back then, when we wanted to be apprenticed to the Sand Continent City, the Yu clan and the Wind God sect obstructed us and even wanted to kidnap us. During the Battle of Kunlun Mountain, they came to pick a fight again. Today we finally made them pay the price. Lu Xiaofeng took a deep breath. Slowly, he said, "Heaven's justice is clear, and retribution is not pleasant. This is called justice in the world." Ying Rosa, who had always been unsociable, also felt very happy at this moment. However, he was unhappy with little fatty Yan Wuwei's way of raising Xiao Yan's status and belittling others. His relationship with Zhu Yi wasn't that deep, but Ying Rosa was always unhappy that his own master was being suppressed by someone else. However, Xiao Yan's previous battle achievements were real, and Ying Rosa was also very impressed. He snorted. In my opinion, Grandmaster is the truly powerful one. Even without his presence, he could suppress the Yu clan's patriarch. Once he was present, even Taishu Temple had to give way. Grandmaster's words, "Those who offend my Xianmen Tianzong, no matter how far away, will be punished," are the most satisfying. Rosa's eyes flickered continuously. He grinned, revealing a mouthful of white wolf teeth. "Now, I really feel that I didn't choose the wrong sect." As soon as he said this, the crowd's atmosphere became even more uplifted. The crowd no longer cared that the person who spoke was Rosa, who had always been at odds with them. They only felt that his words had truly touched everyone's hearts. After Lin Feng defeated the Mount Shu sword sect at the Tianhe Peak sword meet, and this time, he forcefully defeated Taishu Temple's third-tier primordial spirit transformation realm Grand Elder Xianlin Taoist. This caused the younger generation of Xianmen Tianzong disciples to feel even more proud of their sect. Not to mention the Mount Shu sword sect, even if it was the #1 sacred ground in the world, Taishu Temple, we, Xianmen Tianzong, would not fear it at all. "You have to pay us back for what you owe us. If you don't, then we'll beat you until you pay." Slowly, the usually calm and composed Su Yunxing also nodded. "It's precisely because of this that we should work even harder in our cultivation. We have to inherit the might of our elders. We can't bring shame to our sect." Li Xingfei said, "Grandmaster's might shakes the entire divine continent. Our masters have also shaken the world. The disciples of Xianmen Tianzong are invincible when it comes to fights of the same realm." The girl in purple repeated these words that had already spread throughout the divine land. "We have to prove to the world that no matter which generation of disciples we are from, these words are always true." Although she was a girl, the aura of her words was not inferior to that of a man. This made the others around her cheer. "That's right, that's how it should be." A ball of flame suddenly lit up in the middle of the crowd. From the flame, a tall and straight figure slowly walked out. It was Xiao Yan. He looked at the crowd and laughed heartily. "Little fellows, don't be all talk and no action. Since you all have such determination, don't blame me for training you twice as hard in the future." Everyone agreed loudly. "We will work even harder." Naturally, Lin Feng was happy to see the rising motivation of the younger disciples and the improvement of the sect's cohesiveness. Wasn't this the reason why he had a live broadcast? Of course, the premise of a live broadcast was that the sect had to win, and win in a spectacular manner. Previously, when the second-generation disciples went through the disciple recruitment test for the first time, Lin Feng realized that he had neglected some problems. The second-generation disciples were ill-informed and did not know much about their sect's achievements. For example, the Baroncy Assembly had already ended, but the second-generation disciples still did not know the strength of Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and Yang Qing. Therefore, since then, Lin Feng was enlightened and began his live broadcast career. So far, it seemed that the results were quite good. As Lin Feng was thinking about the live broadcast, he suddenly had a thought and communicated with his God of War clone. At this moment, the God of War clone was in the void battlefield, passing through the turbulent void turbulence. A ruined building was floating in the space. On this building, Lin Feng keenly sensed the aura of Wang Lin's arcane energy. Chapter 533. Lin Feng's avatar of Ares landed in the ruins of the building. He furrowed his brows and carefully sensed the waves of spiritual energy in the area. In the void battleground, there were turbulence and space storms everywhere. All the spiritual energy was in a mess. Lin Feng had to observe carefully. Just now, he could vaguely sense Wang Lin's mana. This feeling is not just the mana. Lin Feng's eyes flashed with a tinge of worry. Besides mana, there's also the energy of his physical body. Wang Lin was a pure spell cultivator. His spells were sharp, but his physical body was weaker. Due to the influence of the destructive state of the River of Styx, His physical body could not be compared to his peers. He was also weaker than the cultivators of the other sections. Therefore, the remnants of his energy after a battle would not be like the energy of other martial arts cultivators. There was only one possibility for Wang Lin's energy to remain here. He was injured. His physical body was injured, and the injury was not light. Wang Lin was very clear about his own weaknesses. Therefore, he always took care to protect his physical body. Now that he was injured, it was enough to show how dangerous the battle was. Lin Feng had left his natal lamp. There was a period of time when the lamp was extremely weak, as if it could be extinguished at any time. After a long period of time, the lamp became strong again. This meant that he had overcome a life-threatening situation. Xiao Yan, Zhu Yi, Wang Lin, and Shi Tianhao were on par with each other in the same stage. Because of the difference in their battle styles and the power of their abhijna, there might be some fluctuations in their actual battle, but overall they were on the same level. Xiao Yan, Shi Tianhao, and the rest could confirm that when facing most other cultivators, when they were in the initial stage of the golden elixir, with the help of the Yuanying magic items, they could fight against the grandmasters in the initial stage of the golden elixir. A mid-Aurus core stage cultivator could barely defeat a nascent soul stage cultivator in the mid-Aurus core stage. If the other party did not run away and both parties fought to the death, Xiao Yan and the rest could kill the other party at the cost of sustaining serious injuries. However, when they reached the advanced stage of the golden elixir, they could easily defeat most of the advanced stage Yuanying cultivators. They could completely ignore the power of the cosmic form. But here came the problem. After Wang Lin fell into the void battleground, Lin Feng had used his own consciousness to check his residence. Through the remnants of mana and aura, he could determine that Wang Lin had already undergone cultivation and had the hope of overcoming the tribulation of the Yin fire and advancing to the middle stage of the golden elixir. The flow of time in the void battleground was chaotic and complicated. The flow of time was different in different spatial regions. It was very likely that Wang Lin had stayed in a space where the flow of time was accelerated, which provided him with more time to cultivate. Lin Feng looked at the mana and aura in the ruins again. Wang Lin's cultivation had indeed improved by another level. He had successfully advanced to the middle stage of the golden elixir and was in the heavenly master realm. However, his opponent was a cultivator in the advanced stage of the Yuanying cultivator who had formed the cosmic form. Lin Feng felt the changes in the mana and made a judgment in his heart. It's the bastard who caused Wang Lin to fall into the void battleground. Although Lin Feng knew that Wang Lin had already escaped from danger by observing the natal light, the void battleground was a perilous place for Yuanying cultivators. Other than the original enemy, Wang Lin could encounter other dangers or other powerful cultivators who entered the void battleground. There seems to be something hidden in these ruins. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He stepped lightly and the ground cracked open. The entire ruins were almost completely destroyed. Under the stimulation of Lin Feng's power, the originally silent ruins suddenly flashed with a red light. This red light was extremely ferocious. It was filled with the concept of disaster, misfortune, pain, evil, and many other powers. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows slightly. He did not move. He stretched out his hands and performed the heavens catch. The power of the spatial boundary instantly pinched the red light and prevented it from causing any more trouble. In the red light, a huge human figure vaguely appeared. An endless and terrifying aura of disaster was emitted from his body. It was a tall and muscular man. His entire body was extremely perfect. There was not a single flaw. His facial features were also extremely perfect. However, his expression was calm and there was not a single trace of emotion. His eyes were wide open, just like the most primitive chaos at the beginning of the universe. This statue was surrounded by a destructive and tyrannical aura of a natural disaster, making everyone who saw it feel incomparably shocked and terrified. Lin Feng's face revealed a shocked expression, This is the remnant aura of a cultivator who has attained the immortal soul stage. Furthermore, this is the condensation of the mantras of a demonic cultivator? Oh, this is a rather exquisite demonic mantras. Such mantras are rarely seen in the divine land today. Lin Feng sized up the huge human figure in the red light with interest. He could feel the violent power concept of the demonic mantras. After attaining the immortal soul stage, the powers of Lin Feng's original body had already surpassed that of the avatar of Ares. Even so, the avatar of Ares was not afraid of an ordinary immortal soul second-level cultivator. Furthermore, this was just a manifestation of his remaining powers. After suppressing the human figure, Lin Feng tried to figure out the profundities of the mantras. He compared it to the information in the system and gradually understood. How rare, how rare. This is the mantras of the ancient satanic sect? 10,000 years ago, the human world of cultivation in the divine land was mixed with the satanic sect. There were many satanic sects that shocked the entire era. Among them, the most powerful satanic sect was the ancient satanic sect. They ruled over the satanic sect and dominated the entire grand celestial world. At its peak, even the Mount Shu Sword sect and the Great Thunderclap Temple had to treat it seriously. It was one of the few super sects in the history of the human world of cultivation that dared to challenge the Taishu Temple. The human figure that Lin Feng was suppressing now was an elder of the ancient satanic sect. He cultivated the Avicii mantra. After attaining the immortal soul stage, he cultivated his own virtual entity. However, the void battleground was so ferocious that even an immortal soul stage cultivator could not guarantee his safety. This elder of the satanic sect also met with a calamity. No one knew whether he was dead or alive, but his virtual entity was destroyed. He fell from the immortal soul second level back to the immortal soul first level. His broken virtual entity did not dissipate completely under the influence of the turbulence of the void battleground. Instead, it condensed here. If no one took care of it, this human figure would continue to grow. Perhaps one day, it would develop spiritual awareness and become an avatar of the elder of the satanic sect. Lin Feng suppressed this human figure and thought, although the Avicii mantra is not the greatest secret manual of the ancient satanic sect, it is not inferior to the Tathagata Dharma mantra of the 5 directions of the Great Thunderclap Temple. There are countless profundities within it. When one cultivates the Avicii mantra and below the immortal soul stage, one can attain the Avicii undying body. Although it is not truly undying, it is a new physical body cultivated using the Avicii satanic chi. It can be gathered and dispersed at will. There is no need to fear damage. In ancient times, the disciples of the ancient satanic sect who cultivated the Avicii undying body were especially ferocious in battle. Cultivators below the immortal soul stage were very powerful because of this abhijna. Lin Feng looked into void space. I wonder how Wang Lin is doing now? For someone like him, discovering the mantras here should be as easy as eating and drinking. The only thing he was worried about was that Wang Lin's path to becoming the son of heaven did not change. After the human figure was subdued, the ruins no longer had any value. Lin Feng controlled the avatar of Ares to fly up and enter the turbulence of void space again. Besides Wang Lin, Tianhao's parents and family are more worrying. At the western border of the Great Zhou Empire, where the Great Qin Empire and the Great Zhou Empire intersected, there was a huge army. The person leading this army was the most powerful person in the Great Zhou Empire's military, the Marquis of Jinghuan. In front of the commander-in-chief's tent, there was a huge black flag that fluttered in the wind. When the soldiers in the camp saw this flag, their eyes shone with fanaticism. In the tent, the Marquis of Jinghuan stood with his hands behind his back. He was looking at a map in the corner. There were a few people standing behind him. The 2 people in front were a burly man clad in armor and a middle-aged man in a white robe. Both of them had a strong aura and their mana was boundless. They were the two Yuanying advanced stage cultivators under the Marquis of Jinghuan's command. The middle-aged man in white robe said in a deep voice, "Marquis, these are troubled times. If you enter the void battleground now and something happens in the greater world, I'm afraid you won't be able to make it back in time." The Marquis of Jinghuan shook his head and said, "No worries. It's much easier for me to enter the void battleground than others. Although I can't do as I please, it's not that difficult. There are many treasures waiting for me in the void battleground. It's because of these troubled times that I have to be prepared." He smiled and said, "Furthermore, there's a little beauty that I've always admired who wants to enter the void battleground. It's rare for her to leave the protection of her family. This is a rare opportunity and I have to grab it." The man in armor said, "Commander, I'll go with you." The Marquis of Jinghuan waved his hand and said, "You stay behind and watch over the camp for me. I'll leave the Godslayer puppet to you. If anything happens, you can do whatever you want." He turned his head to look at the middle-aged man in white robe and said, "This time, please follow me." The man in armor and the middle-aged man in white robe nodded and said, "Yes, Marquis." In a desolate and ancient middle world, there was a majestic city at the end of the plains. There was a row of palaces in the middle of the city. Although they weren't glittering in gold and jade, they were majestic and dignified. There was a sense of antiquity that was rarely seen nowadays. Naturally, there was a sense of majesty that came from everywhere, just like a royal palace. It was situated in the middle of a desolate plain, which made the royal aura seem a little dilapidated. However, if one observed carefully, one would realize that there was a powerful aura that seemed to be nurturing in the midst of the desolation, as if it was about to return. In one of the palaces, a young girl in a light green robe stood tall and slender. There was a purple belt around her slender waist, which outlined her waist and made her look extremely alluring. Her silky hair cascaded down her shoulders and only stopped when it reached her slender waist. Her slender figure was untainted by a speck of dust, and she was like a green lotus that bloomed in the mortal world. She was otherworldly and possessed a spiritual aura. In front of her, someone was kneeling on one knee. "Silently," he said. After that, the leader of the celestial sect of wonders forced the Xianlin Taoist of the Taishu Temple to retreat. After that, he left. Xiao Yan left with him. A smile appeared on the young girl's face. "Brother Xiao Yan, your name has already shaken the world." The person in front of her looked at the young girl and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Xiao Yan's abilities have already been recognized by everyone. Since that's the case, do you still want to enter the void battleground?" The young girl said softly, "Of course. Brother Xiao Yan has become stronger, so all the more I want to go. If I don't move forward, how can I accompany him forever?" Chapter 534. The green-robed girl walked in the palace and came to a large hall. There was no one in the hall, but a voice rang out, "Zhener, are you ready?" The girl was Xiao Zhener, who had separated from Xiao Yan. Silently, she said, "Yes, father, I am ready to go to the outer space battlefield." There was no void thunder tribulation in a medium-class world. Therefore, those who were born here could only reach the late stage of the golden elixir realm if they cultivated in a medium-class world. If they wanted to reach the nascent soul stage, they had to find a way to go to the boundless world. But for various reasons, the realm passageway between the boundless world and the known medium-class worlds had attracted a lot of attention. If the golden elixir period cultivators who were born in the medium-class worlds wanted to go to the boundless world, there would be many obstacles. This involved a lot of exchanges of interest. Of course, some people would be taken by their Yuanying elders and try to sneak into the boundless world. But the consequences of doing so were unpredictable. The medium-class world that Xiao Zhener was born in was different from the medium-class worlds like the ancient Yuan Tian realm. If the people here wanted to go to the boundless world, they would attract more attention. If they wanted to find another way, then there was another way, and that was to go to the outer space battlefield. Although the outer space battlefield was also a foreign dimension, it was different from the medium-class worlds. It was full of void storms and void thunder tribulations. Because of the void thunder tribulations, it was very dangerous for the golden elixir period cultivators to go there. If they were not strong enough, they would be instantly turned into ashes if they were struck by the thunder tribulations. Aside from the void thunder tribulations, there were many other dangers in the void battlefield. Not to mention golden core stage cultivators, even original infant stage cultivators had a slim chance of survival. Even primordial soul stage cultivators could not guarantee their safety. Therefore, unless it was absolutely necessary, the cultivators born in the medium-class worlds would not choose to go to the outer space battlefield to undergo the tribulation. If there were exceptions, even the outstanding disciples of the powerful forces would choose to go there. One reason was to undergo the tribulation, and the other was to gain experience. They wanted to try their luck and try to find the treasures in the outer space battlefield. Right now, Xiao Zhen'er was already at the late stage of golden elixir. The young girl in the past had grown into a beautiful woman, and now she was heading to the void battleground. After a moment of silence, the voice in the hall resounded again. "Zhen'er, you have a good eye. Xiao Yan is indeed extraordinary." The corners of Xiao Zhen'er's mouth revealed a light smile. Her father's recognition of Xiao Yan made her feel even happier than praising her. However, the voice continued, if he relied entirely on his own efforts to achieve what he has today, Royal Father will be happy to accept him. However, behind him is Xianmen Tianzong. His master, the master of the celestial sect of wonders, will become an obstacle between you. The smile on Xiao Zhen'er's face gradually disappeared. When Xiao Yan was a good-for-nothing, his family would not accept him as their husband. When Xiao Yan rose again, if he did not have Xianmen Tianzong's background, his father, who had always loved him, might have acquiesced and allowed them to be together. However, the existence of Lin Feng and Xianmen Tianzong made all of this awkward. It was not that Xianmen Tianzong was too weak, on the contrary, he was too powerful. However, Xianmen Tianzong might become an obstacle in his family's path, which made his father feel troubled. Silently, Xiao Zhen'er said, "Royal Father, man proposes, God disposes. The world is ever-changing, who can predict the future? No one will be the eternal protagonist of the world, but my love for brother Xiao Yan is eternal." The void quieted down. After a long time, a soft sigh was heard. The void battlefield is full of dangers. Be careful. Father will send the ancient brush spirit to escort you inside and do his best to protect you. However, passing the thunder tribulation and forming the nascent soul is all up to you. Xiao Zhen'er smiled and said, "Royal Father, I am your daughter." Laughter also came from the void. "That's right. You are my daughter, how can you not even pass the lightning tribulation? Even the void battleground is not a problem for my Zhen." After saying goodbye to her father, Xiao Zhen'er began her final preparations. Once everything was ready, she would head to the void battleground. The young girl gazed at the empty space, the corners of her mouth revealing a faint smile. "Xiao Yan Gij, you are becoming more and more powerful. Zhen'er also can't slack off, or else you'll scratch my nose and say I'm stupid like when I was little." Right now, Lin Feng didn't know that the void battleground had suddenly become much livelier. He continued to search in the void turbulence with his god of war clone, trying to find Wang Lin and Shi Tianhao's parents and grandfather. Meanwhile, his real body was sitting on top of Jade Capital Mountain, staring at the reputation value in the system. His disciple Xiao Yan wiped out Yu Clan, and Lin Feng forced Xianlin Taoist and the others from Taishu Temple to go back. All of these made Lin Feng's reputation value and Xianmen Tianzong's overall reputation value rise greatly. Quite a number of regions' reputation value reached the standard. Especially the Great Qin dynasty, almost all regions had more than 80 reputation value, which made Lin Feng very happy. The Great Zhou dynasty is still a bit lacking. I haven't been there much before. As Lin Feng was thinking, he suddenly saw the overall reputation value of the sects in the Great Zhou dynasty increase by a large amount. In many places, the current reputation value might not be very high, but the potential reputation value was already very high. Lin Feng was slightly startled. What's going on? Did I miss a good show? Looks like Xiaoyi must have caused a commotion in the Great Zhou dynasty. Soon, Lin Feng received the news that Zhu Yi was preparing for the exam in Tianjing City. The day of the exam was just around the corner, but he was attacked at this time. In the end, a late-stage Yuanying expert was killed by Zhu Yi on the spot. When the news spread, the entire Great Zhou dynasty was shaken. At this moment, Zhu Yi only had late-stage golden elixir cultivation. This news echoed with Xiao Yan's achievements in the Great Qin dynasty, and it had an effect that was greater than two. It made Xianmen Tianzong's reputation rise even more. Although the opponent had late-stage Yuanying cultivation, he was far from comparable to Marquis Jinghuan, who had an accompanying Dharma treasure. Zhu Yi won easily. He did not even alarm the divine power avatar that Lin Feng had given him. Master, this person is a late-stage Yuanying cultivator under the command of the Great Qin dynasty's crown prince, Liang Yuan. Zhu Yi sent a voice transmission to Lin Feng through dermic powers. Liang Yuan schemed against me, so I counterattacked and killed the expert under him. This person cultivates the Buddhist Dharma and secretly collects the power of faith. His actions are evil. Disciple killing him is equivalent to removing a scourge for the people. Zhu Yi's actions were reasonable, so the Great Zhou dynasty officials could not say anything. Instead, they would even reward him. However, the enmity between him and Liang Yuan deepened. Lin Feng said indifferently, "When guests come, there is fine wine. When wolves come, there are swords and spears. Those who kill will be killed. If they dare to do evil, then so be it." Disciple found those two girls. It was thanks to them that Disciple understood Liang Yuan's plans. Zhu Yi said, "The Crown Prince's junior preceptor, Chen Yu, who supports Liang Yuan, took in that girl called Luo Qingwu. He found out from the ancient origin heaven realm that this girl has some connection to our Xianmen Tianzong, so he wanted to use her to mislead me." When Lin Feng heard Zhu Yi's story, he could not help but shake his head and laugh. It turned out that Chen Yu had purposely leaked the news that Liang Yuan intended to harm Zhu Yi to Luo Qingwu. However, this matter had not been done discreetly, so there were many suspicious points. In this way, when ordinary people received the news, they would inevitably find it suspicious. They would feel that someone was deliberately framing Liang Yuan and Zhu Yi to create discord and profit from it. Under Liang Yuan and Chen Yu's intentional guidance, the spearhead could be pointed at their true target, such as the fourth prince Liang Qian. Zhu Yi's close relationship with the fourth prince Liang Qian had indeed aroused Liang Yuan's dissatisfaction. However, Xianmen Tianzong was too powerful, and he did not want to directly become enemies. Chen Yu tried to figure out Liang Yuan's thoughts and used this method to first defame himself, using a kind of reverse thinking to lead Zhu Yi down the wrong path. Unfortunately, in the end, he had lifted a rock and smashed it on his own foot. Lin Feng said calmly, "Liang Yuan's way of thinking is far inferior to his father, Liang Pan." Zhu Yi said, "What master says is exactly what disciple thinks. As an emperor, he should be virtuous on the inside and monarch on the outside. It's fine to be an emperor, but to blindly walk an unorthodox path and not temper himself, and even use an evil sect to deceive the masses is truly not the demeanor of an emperor." Lin Feng smiled. "You can deal with the matters of the Great Zhou dynasty as you wish." "Disciple obeys," Zhu Yi answered. "Oh right, master, those two girls hope to come to Jade Capital Mountain to seek medical treatment." At this point, he sighed. Disciple only found out after probing with my transcendence energy. It would be quite a pity if that girl called Luo Qingwu were to lose her precious pearl just like that. Lin Feng's expression did not change, and a smile appeared at the corner of his lips. With regards to Luo Qingwu's initial awkwardness, Lin Feng actually understood what the little girl was thinking. If Lin Feng had not told her to look for him if she needed anything, if he had not laid down this foreshadowing, even if the little girl knew that her family had planned to send her up the mountain, her reaction would not have been so intense, to the point where even Lin Feng took out his anger on her. Because of the correspondence between the two, the little girl felt that Lin Feng was colluding with her family. As a result, Lin Feng's previous kindness to her changed completely. It was as if he had deliberately deceived and schemed against her. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. The more amiable she had felt before, the colder she felt now. That was why when Lin Feng first heard the news, he felt such a pain in the ass, lamenting that the Luo family were really like pigs as teammates. However, after the little girl's awkwardness for a while, she carefully recalled the time she had spent with Lin Feng. Although it was short, it was warm, and she gradually came around. It was just that she was too thin-skinned and felt that she had wronged Lin Feng. She really should not have blamed him, so she hoped that she could make up for it. Lin Feng was well aware of this little girl's thoughts, but he did not care much. He immediately smiled and said, "The day of your examination is coming soon. Don't delay it. Master will arrange for someone else to bring them back." After interrupting the telepathic conversation with Zhu Yi, Lin Feng summoned the Kuei Ox King and said, "I'll have to trouble you to make a trip to Tianjing City." The Kuei Ox King lowered his huge head. "As the sect master commands." Chapter 535. The Kuei Ox King crossed the void and rushed to Tianjing City, the capital of the great Zhou dynasty. Although he was not good at flying, he soon arrived at his destination. Arriving at Tianjing City, Kuei Nyo King followed Zhu Yi's guidance and came to a manor outside the city. It was actually Zhu Yi who had bought some property for himself here. He bought a quiet and secluded courtyard so that he could practice and prepare for the exam in peace. King Kuei Nyo transformed into his human form and changed into the appearance of a burly man. When he entered the courtyard, he saw Zhu Yi standing in the garden with a smile on his face. When he saw King Kuei Nyo, he clasped his hands together and said, "Thank you, King Kuei Nyo. His cultivation has improved a lot compared to when he left the mountain." The Kuei Ox King looked at Zhu Yi and thought, "The sect master's disciples are really amazing. Even Taishu Temple doesn't have so many outstanding disciples." Although he was in the middle stage Demon King realm, he did not dare to be arrogant in front of Zhu Yi, Shi Tianhao, and the others. In the past, he was at least stronger than these kids and respected them because he respected their status as Lin Feng's disciples. But now, in terms of strength, he was surpassed by Zhu Yi and the others. Although he sighed in his heart, he really respected Zhu Yi and the others at this moment. The Kuei Ox King replied, "You're welcome. The sect master ordered me to come here, so it's not a big deal." Zhu Yi nodded and clapped his hands gently. Two girls ran out, one in red and the other in purple. The one in red was Luo Qingwu, and the one in purple was Jun Zining. The two girls came to Zhu Yi's side and looked curiously at the Kuei Ox King in human form. They could vaguely feel his strength. "This is Senior Kuei Ox King. He will send you back to Yujing Mountain," Zhu Yi introduced. Jun Zining suddenly understood. She had seen the Kuei Ox King's original form before. Now that the Kuei Ox King was in human form, she also felt a little familiar. Hearing Zhu Yi's words, she immediately understood. She and Luo Qingwu hurriedly bowed to King Kuei Nyo. "Greetings, Senior." "Greetings, Senior." The one-legged Bull King was indifferent, loyal, and not arrogant. He nodded and said, "Hello?" Before he came, he had already received instructions from Lin Feng and knew that his mission was to bring these two little fellows back to the mountain. Although the two little fellows were only at the qi refining stage, since Lin Feng had ordered him to make this trip, he would do his best to complete the task and not make any mistake. Naturally, the Kuei Ox King would not allow these two little fellows to ride on his back. He immediately released a ball of demonic energy and rolled up Luo Qingwu and Jun Zining. Zhu Yi said, "That little girl in red is injured and needs to return to the mountain for treatment. It's not too late, so I won't keep Senior here. I hope Senior won't blame me." The one-legged Bull King smiled and said, "You're welcome. I came out this time to do my job, so it's better to report to the sect master as soon as possible. Here, I wish you good luck in your exams and top the golden roll." Zhu Yi cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Thank you for your blessings, Senior." As soon as the one-legged Bull King left, a servant in the manor came to report to Zhu Yi, "Young Master Yi, someone wants to see you." When Zhu Yi saw the person, he felt unfamiliar. After taking a closer look, he vaguely felt that the other party had used magic tools and pills to change his appearance, and even his magic power and aura had changed. In order to deceive others, I had no choice. Young Master Zhu Yi, please don't blame me. When the other party saw Zhu Yi after the servant left, he immediately removed his disguise. From the appearance of a skinny old man, he quickly turned into a handsome young man. "Oh, it's you?" Zhu Yi saw the other party reveal his true appearance. It was Chu Yang, a young cultivator from beyond Heaven Mountain under the fourth prince, Liang Qian. He sized up Chu Yang. Although his expression did not change, he was actually slightly surprised. This was because Chu Yang before him was actually at early stage foundation establishment. The last time they met on Yujing Mountain was a year ago. At that time, Chu Yang was only at the 10th level of qi refinement, not even at the great perfection of qi refinement. In a year, he broke through from the 10th level of qi refinement to early stage foundation establishment. Such a cultivation speed could not be considered slow. In fact, it could be said to be very fast. If he was originally at the 12th level of qi refinement, breaking through to foundation establishment in a year would be acceptable. Sometimes, a moment of enlightenment could save a lot of time. However, going from the 10th level of qi refinement all the way to the peak of early stage foundation establishment meant that he had more than one obstacle to overcome. It was quite rare to reach this stage in such a short time. Compared to Zhu Yi and the others, he was a little slower. However, although Zhu Yi and the others had not gone to Yujing Mountain when they were at foundation establishment, they had Lin Feng's 8 trigrams of the Great Way scripture to cultivate. Chu Yang was far from comparable. Zhu Yi could see that Chu Yang did not cultivate in the Grotto Heaven that sped up time. It had been a year. Now that he was at early stage foundation establishment, he was only a little over 16 years old. No matter which sect he was placed in, he would be outstanding. The Beyond Heaven Mountain that Chu Yang came from was not a powerful force. It could not even compare to places like Xianmen Tianzong or Taishu Temple. It could not even compare to the Wind God sect and the Yu clan that Lin Feng had destroyed. The cultivation techniques and resources that Beyond Heaven Mountain could provide Chu Yang could not be considered top-notch. The reason he was able to reach this stage today was mostly due to his own efforts. Zhu Yi observed Chu Yang carefully and did not find anything strange about him. However, his intuition told him that there was a sharp qi on Chu Yang's body. Although it was dormant, there would be a day when it would cut through the heavens and soar to the 9 heavens. This feeling was very mysterious. There was no basis for it. It was purely Zhu Yi's personal feeling. He's also a person with secrets. Zhu Yi smiled inwardly and did not continue to pay attention to him. At the stage that he, Xiao Yan, Shi Tianhao and the others had reached, they only needed to continue walking down their own path. Zhu Yi asked indifferently, "So it's fellow Chu. May I know why you've come this time?" In his heart, he knew that although Chu Yang's cultivation was low, his position under the fourth Prince Liang Qian was not low. He was a trusted aide. Of course, according to his current cultivation speed and the potential he had displayed, his future cultivation achievements would definitely not be low. Chu Yang stated his purpose of coming here. His main purpose was to extend an invitation to the fourth Prince Liang Qian, expressing his goodwill to Zhu Yi. He hoped that he could meet Zhu Yi. Crown Prince Liang Yuan had been tricked by his subordinate, Chen Yu, and made a bad move. While the grudge between him and Zhu Yi deepened, it had instead benefited the fourth Prince Liang Qian, who had been framed by him. Liang Qian naturally had to grasp this opportunity and accept his big brother's gift. Liang Qian had left a good impression on Zhu Yi. He also intended to interact more with Liang Qian. However, now was not the time. Right now, he had to focus all his attention on the upcoming examination. Liang Qian, Chu Yang and the others could also think of this. They did not know the exact time, but they expressed that they would like to meet up with Zhu Yi when he was free. Their attitudes were very humble. Zhu Yi naturally would not refuse. As he conversed with Chu Yang, he felt a little strange. This was because he realized that Chu Yang seemed to be a little absent-minded. Although they had not interacted much, Zhu Yi knew that Chu Yang was a strong-willed and decisive person. It was rare for him to be absent-minded while helping Liang Qian handle official business. This was especially so when Chu Yang's eyes would inadvertently wander around Zhu Yi's courtyard during the conversation. However, it was not because he harbored evil intentions. On closer inspection, it seemed like he was looking for someone. Who is he looking for? Zhu Yi did not expose him, and Chu Yang did not seem to find anything either. In front of Zhu Yi, he did not dare to recklessly scan the courtyard with his spiritual sense. In the end, he could only return in disappointment. He forced himself to bid farewell to Zhu Yi and left the courtyard, feeling even more dispirited. Zhu Yi was baffled. There must be a reason for this. What the hell is this person doing? He did not know that Chu Yang was currently having a headache. My subordinates clearly reported that a red-clothed girl entered Zhu Yi's courtyard. However, I did not find anything this time. If I had known earlier, I would have directly found an excuse to enter Chen Yu's residence. Now I can't force my way into Zhu Yi's courtyard. Chu Yang inadvertently looked to the west, his expression disappointed. Xiao Wu, just where are you? He had sent his subordinates to keep an eye on the surroundings of Zhu Yi's courtyard. However, it was not to keep an eye on Zhu Yi, but to keep an eye on the people who entered or left Zhu Yi's courtyard. However, up until now, he had only seen the girl suspected to be Luo Qingwu enter, and no one come out. However, the Kuei Bull King had directly used his own demonic power to bring her away. This was not something that Chu Yang's subordinates could keep an eye on. At this moment, under the escort of the Kuei Bull King, Luo Qingwu, who Chu Yang had been dreaming of but had once again brushed past, was already on the road to Yujing Mountain. The Kuei Bull King did not stop along the way. Very soon, he returned to Yujing Mountain to report to Lin Feng. Lin Feng smiled slightly. "You've worked hard." He clapped his hands lightly. A golden stream of water wrapped in purple qi floated in front of the Kuei Bull King. It was a portion of Kuan Peng's marrow, which contained a large amount of demonic power essence. The Kuei Bull King was overjoyed. He hurriedly bowed. "Many thanks, Sect Master." Lin Feng smiled. "You have always been diligent and dedicated in your work. Even if someone is missing, it cannot be without you." The Kuei Ox King replied, "The other monster kings on this mountain are all alone. Only I, Old Ox, have brought along a large group of clansmen. The sect has allowed us to cultivate on Mount Yujing. The environment is far better than the outside world. This is already a great kindness. Old Ox really doesn't dare to ask for more. Lin Feng waved his hand. Those who follow me only need to do their best. I will never mistreat them. He pointed at the Kuan Peng's marrow. This is just the beginning. Come to me later. I still have something for you. The Kuei Bull King thanked him profusely and left. In front of Lin Feng, there were only two little girls who did not even dare to breathe. They looked at Lin Feng anxiously. When they saw Lin Feng looking at them, they hurriedly bowed together. Greetings, Senior. Silently, Lin Feng looked at them. He did not say much. With a flick of his finger, a small light spot flew out. It quickly expanded in the air, and turned into a giant formation. It was the yin and yang life and death formation. Before Luo Qingwu could react, she was already thrown into the formation. Then, she saw a giant bell suddenly appear. It changed in the void and turned into a giant door, falling towards the center of the yin and yang life and death formation. Chapter 536. The yin and yang life and death formation did not have more changes at the moment, but only operated the change of life and death. The surging death chi in the death chi stone was enough to kill countless lives, but under the effect of the yin and yang life and death formation, it was all transformed into vigorous vitality, and full of vitality. In the array, countless runes emerged, forming 4 smaller array diagrams, surrounding Luo Qingwu in the center. There was white light shrouding the little girl in the 4 array diagrams, and in the sky above her head, Lin Feng's magic treasure, the Bell of Fate, evolved into its first incarnation, turning into the life-creating gate and pressing down. The vigorous vitality in the yin and yang life and death formation rose to the sky and gathered on the life-creating gate. Slowly, the life-creating gate opened with a roar. Inside the gate of life creation, the grand power of the creation of heaven and earth poured down and poured into Luo Qingwu. The little girl only felt warm and sleepy, as if she was immersed in the sea, warm and comfortable. The 4 small spiritual formations surrounding her had completely merged into one, turning into a diamond-shaped magic formation. The magic formation dragged Luo Qingwu down, and completely merged with the yin and yang life and death formation itself. As the light flickered, the yin and yang life and death formation also gradually changed its appearance, turning into an extremely huge diamond-shaped formation. Spirit-generating formation, open. With the help of Lin Feng's mind, the power of the formation began to run rapidly, and endless spiritual power began to pour into Luo Qingwu's body. The power of the life-creating gate not only included all the postnatal life phenomena, but also the congenital transformation power of the beginning of heaven and earth. It worked on Luo Qingwu's heavenly accumulating dark bead, which was on the verge of breaking, and the effect was immediate. The heavenly accumulating dark bead, after all, was not a tangible entity. It was formed by the congenital pure yin qi, a little law of the great way of heaven and earth, and the spiritual power of the little girl's bloodline and soul. The bead was now full of cracks, and the mysterious yin qi stored in it had almost dissipated. It was maintained by the petals of the bipolar heavenly flower that Lin Feng had used before. At this moment, with the help of the magic power of the spirit-generating formation, the cracks began to be gradually repaired. The cracks, which had been like a spider web, became thinner and thinner until they were almost completely invisible. Blue spirit light lit up on the bead again, and a trace of cool spirit chi was released from it. The mysterious power domain appeared again. The heavenly accumulating dark spirit pearl even trembled slightly, as if a person who had just returned from the dead had finally come to life and returned to the living from the netherworld. As soon as the pearl was awakened, it immediately began to absorb a large amount of yin qi from the surrounding spirit qi. The heaven-accumulating dark spirit pearl's original function was to gather the dark yin qi and slowly nourish the owner's body before slowly absorbing it into the body. He had never swallowed so violently like this before. After the nirvana rebirth, the little lowly's heaven-accumulating dark soul pearl was even more powerful than before. At this moment, the pearl was like a burly man who had been starving for several years and could finally eat heartily again. Under the protection of Lin Feng's spirit accumulation array, the little lowly could withstand the intense absorption of spirit qi and would not be injured. Luo Qingwu was in the array with her eyes closed, as if she had fallen into a deep sleep. At this moment, with the awakening of the heaven-accumulating dark soul pearl, her eyelashes moved slightly, and she woke up. She felt the changes in her body, and she looked a little dazed. The days after the heaven-accumulating dark soul pearl was damaged were the darkest days of her short life. She had imagined countless times how happy it would be if her body could recover. However, the Luo family tried everything they could, but they could not find a way to treat her. Even the Luo family's patriarch, who was in the essence soul realm, was helpless. The medical experts that the family hired were also helpless. The Luo family finally gave up helplessly, and this made the little lowly's mood sink to the bottom of the abyss. At that time, she was almost sentenced to death. The proud daughter of the heavens in the past had instantly fallen to the mortal world. Her parents still pitied her, and the sixth master, Luo Qi, still loved her dearly. However, they could not do anything about Luo Qingwu's situation. No amount of consolation could solve the root of the problem. Going up to Yujing Mountain to seek treatment from Lin Feng was the last hope in the little lowly's heart, but who knew that everything would be so easy? At that moment, Luo Qingwu felt like she was in a dream. She did not experience the ecstasy that she had expected, nor did she cry tears of joy. It was just that happiness had come too suddenly, and the little lowly was caught unprepared. It made her feel like it was unreal. She calmed herself down and looked at Lin Feng, who was looking at her calmly in the array. The little lowly in red's eyes could not help but turn misty. Uncle Lin. Luo Qingwu choked slightly as she bowed to Lin Feng in the array. Thank you, Uncle Lin. No, thank you, Senior Lin, for saving my lifetime and time again. Lin Feng looked at her and smiled. Little girl, sit cross-legged and focus on your breathing. Luo Qingwu was stunned, but she still obediently sat down and began to cultivate seriously according to the method passed down by her family. Lin Feng extended his right hand and snapped his fingers in the air. Amidst the crisp sound, there was a sudden crackling sound of flames jumping. A milky white flame appeared on his fingertip. It was bright and warm. Although it was a jumping flame, it gave off a gentle feeling. It was the pure yang true fire of the seven supreme flames in the world. It was the legendary ancestor of all flames, the source and ancestor of the flames of the heaven primal world. It was the purest flame, able to fuse with many other flames and subdue all evils. The great Tao was all things, and yin and yang coexisted. This was the truth of the heavenly Tao, and all creation was unavoidable. However, there were always exceptions to everything. The few rare pure yang and pure yin items were special cases. They were like the two poles of the world. They seemed to defy common sense, but in fact, they were faintly compatible with the heavenly Tao. In this world, although pure yin and pure yang objects were not unique, they were extremely rare and hard to come by. Lin Feng had once seized several treasures used by Golden Rock Great Sage and Qiongqi Great Sage to set up the nine-light sky-shattering formation in the cloudy forest world. One of them was the dark flower amethyst, which was condensed by pure yin qi. When activated to the extreme, it would not turn into yang, and it was a rare pure yin item. The pure yang true fire in Lin Feng's hands was also a rare pure yang item, without the slightest yin qi. One of the changes in the six paths of birth and death of the yin and yang life and death formation was the change of yin and yang. Lin Feng put the dark flower amethyst in it before because it was the treasure that represented the pure yin change of yin and yang. As for the treasure that could activate the pure yang change, Lin Feng had set his eyes on the pure yang true fire since a long time ago. Now that he had the pure yang true fire, Lin Feng could completely activate the yin and yang change of the yin and yang life and death formation. Under the control of Lin Feng, the pure yang true fire entered the formation and burned fiercely. The pure yang qi was transformed by the yin and yang change of the formation and all turned into pure yin qi. With the dark flower amethyst as the core, it radiated a purple brilliance and shone on Luo Qingwu. Under the illumination of the purple brilliance, Luo Qingwu's body trembled. Her two small eyebrows frowned slightly, and then gradually relaxed. The magic power in her body kept running, and the heavenly yin soul bead began to buzz. The purple brilliance integrated into her body and kept polishing the heavenly yin soul bead. Under the effect of the purple brilliance, the heavenly yin soul bead that had already recovered to its original state changed again. The size of the bead became smaller and smaller, as if it was melting in the purple brilliance. Then, the purple brilliance went all over Luo Qingwu's body, constantly changing her constitution. Gradually, Luo Qingwu's whole body was covered with a layer of purple brilliance, which made her look extremely magical. Originally, the yin qi in the surrounding environment was condensed and refined by the heavenly yin soul bead in her body into pure yin qi. Then, it was stored and nourished her body at the same time. But now, even without the heavenly yin soul bead, a large amount of yin qi still gathered and was absorbed into her body. During this absorption process, the yin qi was automatically purified and absorbed by the little loli instantly. At this moment, Luo Qingwu's constitution was undergoing an earth-shaking change. Such a constitution could only be achieved by one kind of person, and that was the legendary pure yin body. The best constitution for the human cultivators to practice the yin Taoist law was even better than the inborn heavenly yin soul bead. The pure yin body, the pure yang body, and the perfect yin-yang coexistence body like Yang Qing's were all extremely rare and precious constitutions that could only be encountered by luck. If one practiced the appropriate Taoist law, they would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. In the entire Great Tianyuan world, there were only a few people who could beat these constitutions innately. Lin Feng already had a well-thought-out plan. After obtaining the pure yang fire, he had never thought of just repairing the little loli's broken bead. He wanted to make Luo Qingwu's outstanding innate bone frame improve to a higher level and become even stronger. Although the talent detector showed that the little loli's bone frame potential was still 9 points, it was 100% certain that the little loli's bone frame was much stronger than before. If converted to a 100-point system, the original heavenly yin soul bead would only be a little over 90 points, but now it would at least be above 95 points. Lin Feng looked at Luo Qingwu, whose constitution was changing, and smiled. Not bad, just as I expected. Her heavenly yin soul bead does have further potential. The little loli's change in constitution and improvement in bone frame was a long process that needed to be done slowly and steadily. Lin Feng was not in a hurry. While maintaining the yin and yang life and death formation's yin and yang transformation, he put his consciousness into the system. After Lin Feng advanced to the primordial soul realm, the system upgraded again. This time, the upgrade took a long time and finally ended not long ago. Lin Feng entered the system to check. Sure enough, after the upgrade, there were many treasures suitable for the primordial soul realm. There were even magic treasures. However, the magic treasures were not ready-made magic treasures. They were just the frame of the magic treasures, just like the Bell of Fate. There were also many precious and unique magic treasure embryos in the system. Many magic treasure embryos were very suitable for independent magic treasure models. When the two were combined, a magic treasure could be refined effortlessly. Of course, it was still ridiculously expensive to get them directly from the exchange system. As for the items to be drawn from the roulette lottery system and the dice lottery system, it still depended on one's luck. If one was lucky, there would be many good items, and one could even draw the lottery with their eyes closed. If one was unlucky, there would be few good items, and one would not even bother to look at them. The rules of the lottery system had not changed. However, if one wanted to draw the good items from the exchange system, the collateral must be powerful. Otherwise, the probability would be so low that it would be hopeless. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.